I couldn't stop worrying after I saw the news. It reported that the plane my husband was on for a business trip abroad had crashed. I tried calling him, but the call wouldn't go through. Then, out of nowhere, I received a casual message from him saying, "Just got here." I felt so relieved, but that relief didn't last. Soon after, the news announced that there were no survivors from the crash. My mind was racing. What did this mean? Wasn't his plane safe? My name is Ella. I live with my husband, Caden, who I've been married to for 5 years, and our daughter, Mila, who's almost 3. I quit my job when I got pregnant, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. Mila's terrible two's phase has passed, and lately, she's been helping me more. While it was tough before, I'm now happily raising her without stress. But things with Caden have been different lately. He's been so busy with work that he often only comes home to sleep. Sometimes, I even notice a woman's perfume scent on him, probably from entertaining clients. He works weekends and stays late, leaving little time to spend with Mila. "Papa, don't you like me anymore?" Mila asked once, her voice quiet. I hugged her tightly and stroked her hair. "Of course he does. He's just very busy so we can live comfortably," I reassured her. Caden promised to celebrate Mila's birthday with us this Sunday, so I told her we'd have a great time together then. We plan to invite my in-laws for Mila's birthday next month. They live just 15 minutes away, so we see them often, and Mila is very close to them. Caden's younger sister, Camilla, also lives nearby with her 2 children. My in-laws treat all their grandchildren equally, and I'm grateful they love Mila without favoritism. Then, one day, Caden told me, "I have a business trip abroad for 2 weeks, starting on the 8th next month." Surprised, I asked, "Wait, a trip abroad starting on the 8th? But Mila's birthday is on the 10th. We promised to celebrate together. I told her you would be there." I felt hurt and angry thinking about Mila's disappointment. "I don't have a choice, Ella, it's work," Caden replied. "If I could, I'd want to be there to celebrate too." Seeing the struggle on his face, I realized that this wasn't easy for him either. "I'm sorry," I said. "You're right. I just got a bit upset. I feel bad for Mila." Caden patted my shoulder and replied, "I'll get a gift for her. Let me know what she wants. Your parents will be there, so she won't feel alone. And I promise we'll celebrate together next year, okay?" "You better," I emphasized, deciding to let it go for now. Although I worried about Mila, I was determined to make her birthday special. I'd decorate the house and cook so she wouldn't feel lonely without her dad. I asked my in-laws if they could stay over for Mila's birthday. They understood that Caden was on a business trip and immediately offered to help. "Leave it to us," my mother-in-law said cheerfully. "Your father-in-law is already preparing to stay over." Her words lifted my spirits, making me feel a bit better about the celebration. The next day, I gently explained Caden's trip to Mila. As expected, she looked sad and teared up, but I added, "Grandpa and Grandma will stay over for your birthday." Hearing this, Mila's face brightened a little, and I was relieved to see her smile. The day after Caden left, my mother-in-law called. "Ella, do you need anything for tomorrow? We've prepared a present and reserved a cake. Is there anything else you need help with?" I felt so grateful and thanked her right away. "Thank you so much. We already bought the decorations and Mila's gift, so we're set. But thank you for the cake and the present." "No problem. We loved picking them out. Your father-in-law has been excited all week." Her words made me smile. I felt so lucky to have such caring in-laws. Even without Caden, tomorrow was going to be a fun day for Mila. After a while, my mother-in-law changed the subject. "By the way, has Caden arrived yet?" He said he'd be taking a smaller plane to his final destination after landing. I hadn't heard from him since he left, so I figured his flight might be delayed. I made a mental note to check his flight number right after our conversation. Just then, I had a sudden thought. Was Caden's business trip really to America? I sensed something strange in my mother-in-law's suddenly trembling voice. "Yes, Caden went to America." "Why? What's wrong?" "Turn on the TV right now. They're reporting on a plane crash in America." I quickly turned on the TV, and there it was, an emergency news report about a plane crash. In shock, I dropped my phone. My mother-in-law's scream pulled me back, and I scrambled to pick it up again. "Ella, calm down. We don't know for sure if it's Caden's plane," she said, trying to reassure me. But even as I said, "You're right," my heart was racing, filled with fear. What would I do if something had happened to him? Then the news anchor mentioned the name of the aircraft. It was the same as Caden's flight. "Mother-in-law, this is Caden's plane. What are we going to do?" I whispered, the terrible reality sinking in. My knees gave way, and I collapsed to the floor. my mouth dry and tears streaming down my face. "Ella," my mother-in-law's loud voice snapped me back. "Stay strong. We don't know for sure what happened to Caden yet, okay? Try calling him. I'm coming over right now, so just stay calm, understood?" "Yes," I replied, still in shock. After hanging up, I dialed Caden's number, but the phone just rang with no answer. "No, this can't be happening," I thought, my heart pounding. Why wasn't he answering? Desperate, I sent him a text. "Are you okay?" I gripped my phone tightly, staring at the screen. Suddenly, a message came through from Caden. "Just arrived." Relief washed over me, and I burst into tears. Thank goodness," I whispered, overwhelmed with gratitude. But then I heard more words from the TV. "There are no survivors." No survivors? What did that mean? It was supposed to be Caden's plane. I froze, unable to reply to his text, and tried calling him again, but there was no answer. I got a text from Caden saying, "I just arrived at the airport and need to pick up my luggage." I couldn't believe how indifferent he sounded. After everything, how could he not care about my feelings? My anxiety and anger mixed together, and I couldn't help but feel irritated. The news had just reported a plane crash, and I was so worried. "Please, just answer the phone for a moment," I begged him. "Show me your face on a video call." But all I got was another cold text. "I'm fine. I'll call you later. I need to go now." I was relieved to know he was okay, but his lack of concern chilled me. Even after I sent him more messages, he didn't reply. Then I got a call from my mother-in-law. Before coming over, she had contacted Caden's company, only to be told that he was on a long-term vacation and not on a business trip abroad. This didn't make sense at all. The business trip was a lie from the start. I suddenly realized everything. Caden had been lying to me for so long. I'd never felt so much hatred for him before. I decided to tell my mother-in-law everything, how Caden rarely came home, showed no interest in his family, and even came back smelling like women's perfume. I hadn't wanted to suspect him of cheating just because of the perfume, but now it all added up. The business trip was just a cover-up for his affair. My mother-in-law was furious. "That stupid son of mine. We were the fools for worrying about him," she said. "Ella, come stay with us. It must be tough for you and Mila to be alone." I agreed, and after moving in with my in-laws, they apologized for not noticing the truth sooner. Even my sister-in-law came over to support me, and I felt the warmth and kindness of my in-laws. But even with everyone being so kind, I couldn't stop thinking about Caden. I hired a private detective to gather proof of his cheating, and soon I received a photo of him at the airport with his affair partner. I couldn't believe it. Caden really had been cheating on me. 2 weeks later, Caden called. "Hello, where are you? I just got back from my business trip and I can't open the door. Can you come unlock it for me?" His voice was so indifferent, like nothing had happened. I couldn't believe his attitude. "Even if I came, I couldn't open the door. I don't have the key anymore, and the old one should have been replaced by now." "What do you mean, replaced?" Caden asked, confused. I could tell from his voice that he thought I hadn't noticed anything, but I was done pretending. I decided to move out. I couldn't stay with a cheating man who prioritized a trip over our daughter's birthday. "What are you talking about?" Caden asked, trying to act clueless. My anger boiled over. "Do you think I don't know? I know everything. You took a long-term vacation and went to Europe, not America." "Calm down, Ella. There must be some mistake," Caden tried to explain. "Don't fool me," I snapped. "I know you've been cheating, saying you had to work overtime and go on business trips on weekends." I couldn't hold back anymore. I raised my voice, although my head was spinning. "I'm divorcing you. I'll make sure you pay alimony and child support." Caden screamed. "Wait, please, what are you talking about?" He sounded hesitant. "I'm sorry, I did cheat on you, but it was just for fun. The one I truly love is you, Ella." His words made me sick. I responded coldly. "Nice acting, but there's no way I'll believe someone who chose a cheating trip over our daughter's birthday. Did you think I'd forgive you if you said it was just for fun? I will never forgive you or your affair partner." Then Caden's tone changed. "I'm the only one apologizing here. Who do you think you have to thank for the life you have now? You'd be struggling if we divorced. Stop making a big deal out of just cheating and a birthday. It's so annoying." Just then, my sister-in-law Camilla grabbed the phone. "There's no way Ella should be with someone who doesn't even care about his own daughter's birthday," she said firmly. Caden was surprised, but the surprises didn't stop there. "I'm here too," my mother-in-law said, joining the conversation. "And Dad too." They all revealed the truth. "We knew you couldn't come home, so we all waited for you. Your sister's husband is taking care of Mila," my father-in-law shouted. "You're no longer a son to us, don't ever come to our house again." My mother-in-law and Camilla continued, "Your things are in our shed, come get them by tomorrow, or we'll throw them out." "Big brother, you betrayed Ella, you're filthy, the worst," Camilla added. Caden's voice trembled as he tried to apologize. "Wait, I was wrong. It was just a moment of weakness. I'm sorry, please don't say things like that." But no one was willing to forgive him. I yelled, "It's unbearable to be cheated on over a moment of weakness. You've been cheating for a long time, and you're still lying. How much more do you need to make fun of me?" "Stop it, cheater, if you don't agree to the divorce, I'll take you to court," I shouted. Caden panicked. "Please, no court," he begged, agreeing to the divorce immediately. The next day, Caden showed up at my in-laws' house, groveling on the doorstep, but the family only gave him cold stares. Unable to take it anymore, he left with only a few of his things. After that, I filed a claim for damages against him, and once his affair was exposed, his mistress dumped him immediately. I broke up with him, and even though his mistress begged for forgiveness, I was firm about pursuing the damages. She ended up with a lot of debt and, reportedly, started working in the night industry to pay it off. When the affair became public at his company, Caden couldn't handle the judgment and chose to resign. However, he still has to pay for the damages and child support. I've heard he's now working non-stop, from morning to night, with no time for himself. As for me, I'm still living with my in-laws. They've continued to treat Mila and me with kindness, just like before. I'm determined to do my best to repay them for everything they've done for us.
"I'll raise this child on my own," I told my husband, Kevin, with determination. But Kevin just laughed it off carelessly. "Go ahead, do as you like. My daughter, Madison, is not an object." Yet, I felt nothing but disgust for Kevin, who treated her so lightly. Talking any further with Kevin would just be a waste of time. "Well, I have to go to my beloved Arya. You two get along. Even if you both collapse, I'm a stranger now. Don't you dare rely on me," Kevin said and left the house. Later on, "Is Madison here?" Kevin returned, looking frantic. He must have found out about Madison's secret. "How dare you show your face now?" I looked at Kevin with disdain. "Shut up. It's cowardly of you, too, to keep silent. Madison, let's live with your real family, with Dad. Were you bullied by Mia?" Kevin spoke to Madison firmly. The next moment, Madison looked down on Kevin with disdain. "Who are you?" "I am Mia. This year, I turned 45. I currently live with my husband of the same age, Kevin, and our daughter, Madison." Kevin was my classmate in middle school. Back then, the rowdy Kevin and the quiet me barely interacted. Kevin often skipped classes and was always sleeping if he was in the classroom. He seemed quite the troublemaker. However, Kevin had his good points. He valued friendship. Kevin got along well with everyone, regardless of gender. He seemed to care about his friends and was actively involved in helping them when they were in trouble. I watched Kevin from a distance. And without becoming particularly close to Kevin, I graduated from middle school. Kevin and I went to different high schools. We met again as working adults. One day, a reunion for our middle school class was organized. I am now in my 40s. I was curious to see what kind of adults everyone had become. There might be a chance to reminisce about the old days. Wanting to see my classmates and friends after a long time, I decided to attend the reunion. There, by chance, Kevin was seated next to me. "Could it be Mia? Long time no see." Kevin spoke to me in a friendly manner. Back then, I was quite plain-looking, so I didn't stand out much. So, I was surprised that Kevin remembered me. However, I didn't mind it at all. "You've changed, Kevin. I'm surprised." Kevin used to dress like a delinquent in middle school. But now, Kevin had short hair and was dressed refreshingly. There was hardly any trace of his old self. Then, Kevin and I hit it off, and we exchanged numbers when the reunion ended. After that, we started to meet regularly. Eventually, we began dating and started to think about marriage. Kevin felt the same way, and one day, he proposed. "I want you to marry me." I couldn't imagine marrying anyone but Kevin, so I accepted his proposal. At that moment, Kevin was so happy, which made me smile too. We decided to just register our marriage, considering our age. We decided not to have a wedding ceremony nor honeymoon. After registering our marriage, Kevin revealed he had been divorced and had a daughter. I was surprised, but we were already legally married. There was no turning back now, and at this age, having my own children would be difficult. I decided to look at it positively, realizing I could experience parenting, something I had given up on. Fortunately, Madison was a good girl. Surely, the three of us will be able to get along well. That was what I believed. However, that was quickly betrayed. After getting married, Kevin soon reverted to the mischievousness he had in middle school. Maybe he had just been hiding it while we were dating. Soon after our marriage, Kevin and Madison moved into my house. I had bought a house worrying about my old age, while Kevin and Madison had been living in an apartment. Moving in with me would be more economical in terms of rent. So, I had Kevin and Madison move out of their apartment and into my house. Fortunately, there were several spare rooms. When I told Kevin there was no need for rent, he seemed happy and agreed to the move. For a while after Kevin and Madison moved in, life was peaceful. Kevin worked as a carpenter and often came home late. Since I worked from home and had a flexible schedule, I took care of Madison a lot. I was also in charge of dropping off and picking up Madison from the childcare center. Initially, Kevin was thankful for my help. I feel bad that I'm always so busy. Let's go out for dinner on Sunday as an apology. It's on me. Kevin would say that whenever he had to stay out late for work. But such considerate gestures began to change just 6 months after we started living together. I'm going out for drinks with colleagues tonight. Don't worry about dinner for me. Kevin would send such messages and then not return home until morning. We were still newlyweds. This seemed completely unreasonable. So, in the morning, I tried to confront Kevin. However, he immediately locked himself in his room upon returning home, making any discussion impossible. I have a hangover, so please leave me alone. I'm calling off work today. Kevin always does this when things get tough. He plays up feeling unwell, so I can't press the issue too hard. Understood. That was all I could reply. But my worries weren't just about Kevin. I was also concerned about Madison. Because Madison often fell ill, frequently coming down with fevers. She coughed a lot and frequently seemed to be in poor health. And I often received calls from the childcare center asking me to pick her up due to her condition. Having no prior experience with childcare, I had nothing to compare this to. But I was worried as this was happening too often. Concerned, I decided to talk to Kevin about Madison before he left for work one morning. It's about Madison. She's had a fever 5 times this month. Isn't that too much? It was clear she was getting sick too often. Then, Kevin frowned and said, "What am I supposed to do if you spring this on me all of a sudden? Isn't it somewhat inevitable with group settings like at the childcare center? But still." I let out a confused voice. Then, as if a thought struck him, Kevin said, "I think Madison is just not used to the new environment suddenly changing. Mia, you've become a mother now, so maybe try giving Madison more nutritious food, or be more attentive to her needs." Huh? I was dumbfounded by Kevin's reasoning. It was as if he was saying I wasn't feeding Madison properly. As I was lost for words, Kevin carelessly added, "Anyway, I'm busy. You'll have to figure it out, Mia." And with that, Kevin left for work. But Kevin is Madison's real dad. Doesn't Kevin worry about Madison? That thought crossed my mind for a moment, but right now, Madison was my main concern. I bought a cookbook and tried to prepare meals with higher nutritional value. But despite my efforts, something unexpected happened one day. That evening, as I was cooking dinner, I felt something was off because I couldn't hear Madison, who should have been in the living room. Usually, Madison would be watching TV and singing happily. Madison? What happened? I went to the living room to check on Madison and froze. Because Madison had collapsed. Her expression was full of pain. "Madison, are you okay?" I rushed to her and called out. But there was no response. So, I immediately called an ambulance. At the hospital, I learned something unexpected. Pediatric cancer? Yes. We'll need to discuss and decide on a treatment plan going forward. The doctor calmly explained the situation. Though I felt on the verge of panic, his composed demeanor helped me stay calm. It was decided that more detailed tests would be conducted tomorrow to determine the treatment plan, as specialists weren't available on Sunday. "Mom, can we go home today?" Madison, now conscious but waking up in a hospital, seemed anxious. "Yes, it's okay. Let's go home together," I answered Madison with a smile. It was Sunday, but Kevin wasn't at home, because he had gone out drinking with friends. He had been looking up bars excitedly on his cell phone the day before. Kevin had left the house before noon and it was unclear if he would return today. I have to talk to Kevin properly. Madison's illness is serious, and it's necessary for Kevin to understand the gravity of the situation. However, Kevin recently hasn't been much involved in taking care of Madison. Honestly, I'm not even sure if there is any parental love for Madison. That's why I can't predict how he will react. I dread thinking about what's to come. I sighed to myself, alone with my thoughts. But that day, Kevin didn't come home. And he still hadn't returned by the next morning. "Madison, let's go." With no other choice, I took Madison early in the morning to the hospital where she had been taken by ambulance the day before. We underwent various tests, including blood tests. We were told that the results would come later, so we returned home, somewhat exhausted. When we got home, Kevin was there, drunk. "Welcome back." Moreover, Kevin was in a good mood, drinking a can of beer. I was angry at Kevin's attitude. It was insensitive given Madison's critical condition. I wished he would show more awareness as a father. "Why didn't you come home yesterday? And what about work today?" My voice lowered involuntarily. However, Kevin just laughed as if he was having a great time. "Yesterday was so fun. I just got back a while ago and decided to take the day off," he said, taking another sip of his beer. I looked at Madison, making a gloomy face. Anyone would feel this way if their dad acted like this when they were dealing with a serious illness. I clenched my fists and yelled at Kevin. "Enough is enough. Madison has pediatric cancer, you know? At a time like this, when things are going to be tough, do you even realize you're a dad?" I glared at Kevin as I said that. Kevin looked shocked by my words. "What? Madison has pediatric cancer for real?" Then he turned to ask Madison. Madison nodded. His face turned pale. "No way, this just got really complicated. I can't pay for hospital bills or anything like that." Kevin sighed heavily. I was appalled. The moment he learns his own daughter is sick, this is his response and attitude. He's completely failing as a father. Ignoring my dumbfounded silence, Kevin blurted out as if he had an epiphany. "I hate dealing with troublesome stuff. Maybe it's time to call it quits." "What? What do you mean?" What does he mean by calling it quits? A question mark hovered in my mind. Then, in the next moment, Kevin made an unbelievable statement. "Actually, there's someone else I like. So, using this as a chance, I'm thinking of remarrying. Madison's in the way, so Mia, you raise her. You've got some maternal feelings, right?" "What? Madison is sick, you know? Don't you want to support her as a dad?" My anger intensified at Kevin's words. Madison, in a low voice, expressed her anger too. "Dad's the worst," she murmured, visibly upset. It's unimaginable that these words are about his own daughter. Yet, Kevin didn't read the room at all. "Well, if that's decided, let's get divorced. I even have the divorce papers ready." Saying that, Kevin pulled out divorce papers from his bag. He must have been thinking about remarrying someone else all along. Otherwise, there's no reason for him to have divorce papers prepared. Kevin, looking pleased, said, "Of course, you'll have custody of Madison. I can't deal with a sick child." He said this with a laugh. Truly, he's finished as a father. Madison looked anxious at Kevin's words. "Mom." She clung to me, her face pale. I realized when I looked at Madison. I couldn't leave her with Kevin, the absolute worst. Even if Madison wasn't my biological child, I loved her deeply. That's why I made my decision. "I'll raise this child on my own," I told Kevin with determination. But Kevin just laughed it off carelessly. "Go ahead, do as you like. Madison is not an object." Yet, I felt nothing but disgust for Kevin, who treated her so lightly. Talking any further with Kevin would just be a waste of time. Well, I have to go to my beloved Arya. You two get along. Even if you both collapse, I'm a stranger now. Don't you dare rely on me. Kevin said that and left Madison behind, walking out of the house. This is so frustrating. A tear rolled down my cheek. Kevin showed no awareness of his role as a father to the very end. Madison wouldn't have been rewarded with such a father. I looked at Madison. Then, Madison smiled sadly. I'm okay, so don't worry about me, Mom. I'm really sorry for causing so much trouble over this. She muttered hesitantly. It's no trouble at all. Kevin is truly the worst for making a 6-year-old say such a thing. My heart ached. So, I embraced her tightly and said quietly, It's okay. Your dad will definitely regret this. I can't forgive him for abandoning such a lovely child. Madison trembled slightly. Thank you, Mom. Tears overflowed from her eyes. Days later, Madison and I were living happily together. Fortunately, we were able to manage with outpatient treatment without the need for hospitalization. I couldn't forgive Kevin, but the time spent with Madison was healing. We took the opportunity to make sweets together and cherish our moments as a duo. Then, one day, Is Madison here? Kevin came back, looking frantic. He must have finally learned Madison's secret. How dare you show your face now? I glared at Kevin with contempt. Shut up. It's cowardly of you, too, to keep silent. Madison, let's live with your real family, with Dad. Were you bullied by Mia? Kevin looked at Madison, seemingly concerned. But that must have been just an act. After all his terrible actions, it's hard to believe he had a change of heart. The next moment, Madison looked at Kevin with disdain. Who are you? What? Madison, what are you saying? I'm your only dad, right? Did Mia say something to you? Kevin looked incredulous. Then Madison retorted. My family is just Mom. I don't have a dad. She glared at Kevin. Rejected completely by Madison, Kevin looked at me desperately. Mia, you haven't submitted the divorce papers yet, right? We're still married, and Madison is my child, right? Kevin's eyes held a slight hope. I decided to confront Kevin with the reality. I submitted the divorce papers long ago. What are you even talking about? Kevin had left days ago. Then, Kevin's face turned desperate. You act too fast, don't you? He said, stunned. But in the next moment, Kevin turned to me. Now that I know, I'm aware of Madison's insurance situation. You're just realizing that now. I muttered. Madison's secret. It was the substantial insurance policy taken out on her. Actually, my job is in life insurance sales. So, I understand the importance of life insurance better than anyone. I have a significant life insurance policy on myself, covering major illnesses, disabilities, care needs, and more. Of course, I'm also enrolled in pension plans and lump sum options. And the same goes for Madison. Soon after marrying Kevin and becoming a family with Madison, I enrolled her in several insurance policies where she was the insured. I had only told Kevin that I was taking out insurance on Madison. You're covering the insurance premiums, right? Then do whatever you want. Kevin had said that. He seemed uninterested, and he never asked anything about it afterward. I think he had forgotten about it all this time. But I utilized all my knowledge to enroll Madison in the best possible insurance plans. Now, I know why he was suddenly so interested. I found it curious. So, I asked Kevin, why are you suddenly interested in Madison's insurance? You seemed completely uninterested when we talked about it. I thought you had forgotten. Then Kevin said something astonishing. I was curious if there were any letters for me. I went to the house during the day and took a bunch, and I ended up taking some of yours too. From the conversation, it seemed Kevin had come to the house on his own and stole letters from the mailbox. It was a letter from the life insurance company, so I got curious and opened it without permission. Then, I found out it was confirming the details of Madison's insurance. You've taken out quite a lot on Madison, huh? Kevin said, laughing. I couldn't believe Kevin had opened my letters without permission. I was so astonished, I couldn't even find the words to respond. Then, with a sarcastic smile, Kevin pressed on. How much did you get from the insurance now that Madison has cancer? You did enroll in medical insurance, right? It should have been written in the letters. Kevin was eagerly inquiring. His greed for money was disappointing. Not once since he learned of Madison's illness did he show any concern for her. I didn't feel obliged to kindly inform such a person. So, I decided to feign ignorance. Who knows? What are you going to do with that information now? We're divorced, so you can't get any insurance money, you know? Kevin looked frustrated at my response. That's because you're keeping silent. Why does he even think he's entitled to any money? I decided to confront him with reality. First of all, I'm the policyholder for Madison's insurance, okay? I'm the one paying the premiums. Why would you, who did nothing, think you have any rights? Then, uncomfortably, Kevin suggested, I'll remarry you. If we're married again, the insurance money becomes shared property between husband and wife, right? He seemed to realize he was at a disadvantage. I think that's natural too. Because Kevin hasn't contributed at all to the insurance premiums for Madison's policy. He must have concluded that even he couldn't claim any rights under those circumstances. I firmly stated, no thanks. Weren't you going to remarry Arya? I have no intention of remarrying at all. Who would remarry someone like him? I rejected him outright. Then, Kevin clung to me. I can't remarry anymore. The marriage with Arya is off. Kevin slumped, defeated, as he said this. What? What do you mean? You left the house so happily. I couldn't help but ask Kevin. Madison looked as surprised as I felt. Indeed, Kevin had said he was going to remarry Arya and left the house. Suddenly, the marriage was off. What has happened? Madison also seemed puzzled by the turn of events. Then, awkwardly, Kevin started to explain. Actually, after moving in with Arya, we spent all our time playing around, and I ended up getting fired from my job. Then Arya dumped me. I see. I was just astounded by Kevin. Turns out, Arya wanted to be a housewife. She said she didn't want a man without money and kicked me out of her house. Kevin was scratching his cheek, looking embarrassed. Even so, I had no intention of getting back together with Kevin. Just because Arya dumped you, you think you can come back? Anyway, I won't remarry you, Kevin. And you have no rights to Madison's insurance, just so you know. Don't say that, please. I'm begging you. Kevin was desperately pleading with me. But my stance remained unchanged. I've decided to live my life with just Madison. Why don't you start a new life, too? I responded coldly. Then Kevin let out a disgruntled sound. I was planning to take Madison's insurance money and go back to Arya. If I had the money, maybe we could get back together. Just give me the money already. So, that's your true intention? I was utterly disillusioned by Kevin's true intentions. That audacity of trying to get the insurance money that hasn't been paid just because he is Madison's biological father. I can't help but be truly disappointed. I grew even angrier. All you talk about is money. What were you planning to do with Madison in the first place? Did you even intend to take proper care of her? If he had plans to be by Madison's side through her hospital stays, there might be some redemption for him as a father. I waited for Kevin's answer. But Kevin was worse than I imagined. Huh? As if I'd bother with such troublesome stuff. Once I get the insurance money, I'd just leave her at some facility. If it's one attached to a hospital, they'd probably take her in, right? He said it as if it was the most natural thing in the world. You're the worst. I was speechless. Kevin seemed to have no awareness of being a father at all. He wasn't worried about Madison. Instead, all he saw was money. So, it's just about the money after all. And you call yourself a dad? I'm truly appalled. Besides, the insurance money has a designated beneficiary, so even if you got custody, it wouldn't matter. What? What do you mean? I sighed as I explained. Kevin seemed to think having custody would allow him to receive the insurance money. However, insurance policies usually have a designated beneficiary set at the time of the agreement. So, Kevin had no right to the money. Kevin was holding his head in his hands. Great! No job, no wife, no place to live. What am I supposed to do now? Kevin looked desperate. That's not my problem. Why don't you find a job? Somewhere I don't know. All of this was the result of Kevin's own actions. If he had been serious about his job, he wouldn't have been fired. It's entirely his responsibility. But Kevin seemed uninterested in working for himself. Cornered, Kevin seemed to have an idea. And then addressed me. Right. I'll stay and look after you too. It's risky for women to live alone, right? Besides, it might be reassuring for you to live with someone familiar. Kevin said this with hopeful eyes. Seeing my silence, he seemed to take it as affirmation. In return, just lend me some of the insurance money. Kevin said this with a wink. I was, in a way, impressed by his audacity to even suggest such a thing. Madison was looking at Kevin with a look of utter astonishment. Surely, Kevin must be the only father who could elicit such a reaction from his own daughter. It seemed clear that I had to be straightforward with Kevin for him to understand. I smiled brightly, hooking Kevin into a moment of shared joy. Then, suddenly, I raised my voice in a firm declaration. Absolutely not. I will take care of Madison by myself, so there's no way I'm considering getting back with someone like you. Don't you dare show your face to me ever again. But... Kevin's face fell in shock. Remember what you said, Kevin? Even if you both collapse, I'm a stranger now. Don't you dare rely on me. I'm throwing those words right back at you. Those words from him were unforgettable. It seemed Kevin gave up trying to persuade me after my declaration. Then, he turned to Madison with a whiny tone. Madison, you want to live with your real dad, right? You don't want this fake mom who's a stranger, do you? Kevin. Kevin was now attempting to cling to Madison. Probably thinking if he could convince her, I would follow. His perpetual reliance on others was astounding. I looked at Madison. She was angrier than I had ever seen her. Until now, she has been at the mercy of his selfishness. Madison probably feels that anger. Taking a deep breath, Madison shouted. You're not my dad. I hate you. I only have Mom. Don't ever come back. With that, Madison hugged me tightly. Madison. I was moved by her words. Kevin, looking frustrated, finally conceded. Fine. Don't come crying to me with regrets. Kevin said this and started to leave. However, I called out to him one last time. Kevin. He turned back to respond. What? You're finally going to say you want to get back together with me? Kevin seems to think I agree. He looks confident. However, I was about to shatter his illusion completely. I smiled brightly and informed Kevin of my intentions. We have divorced, but I'll be claiming compensation for adultery. And that includes from Aria, too. You'll definitely regret neglecting Madison. Kevin's face turned pale. But I don't have any money. I don't even have a place to live or a job anymore. He muttered this. I smirked at Kevin's dismay. Such a shame, right? Thought you were going to get a big insurance payout, but instead, you find yourself having to pay. You're truly pitiful. Don't joke with me. Kevin shouted in frustration. If you show up in front of us again, I'll call the police. Be prepared for that. I said this with a bright smile. Perhaps intimidated by my smile. Yes, he replied and fled. After that incident, Kevin disappeared. I hired a lawyer to claim compensation from Kevin and Aria. Aria was initially reluctant to pay the compensation. However, she was persuaded by the lawyer and eventually agreed to pay the standard compensation amount. If you're not satisfied, we can always take it to court. It might become known to your company, though. I think my message through the lawyer had a significant impact. I heard that Aria broke up with Kevin and remained single. She had planned to live off a man, taking Kevin. However, in the end, all she was left with was the obligation to pay compensation. It must have been a regretful outcome for Aria as well. Kevin was in a worse situation than Aria. He lost his home and job. As a result, Kevin's financial situation dwindled. He must have been driven to the edge mentally, appearing in front of me and Madison from time to time. He looked disheveled and even smelled a bit. I worried he might do something drastic, which wouldn't be good for Madison's mental well-being. Therefore, I consulted with the police and got a restraining order issued. When Kevin was lying in wait for us once, a passing police patrol gave him a stern warning. "I'm terribly sorry." Kevin fled the scene as if running away. After that incident, we didn't see Kevin again. He must be living in fear of the police by now. Interestingly, the compensation was paid by Kevin's parents. My in-laws apologized to me numerous times. Since Madison isn't biologically related to me and I've taken on her upbringing, they probably feel an extra sense of remorse. They've also been providing child support. And in return for paying these sums, Kevin's parents seem intent on severing their parental ties with him. Especially my father-in-law, John, furious, declared, "Kevin will never set foot in our house again. Even if there's an inheritance, he won't get a penny of it." My mother-in-law, Sophia, tearfully criticized Kevin. "It's truly shameful. Kevin is no longer my son." With that said, she showed a firm refusal. Given their stance, Kevin couldn't rely on his family home anymore. I've also informed his middle school classmates about Kevin's situation, effectively removing any potential support from his friends. Kevin always valued his friendships. He would often say during our time together, "I really treasure my friends from middle school. Those friendships are for life." He used to keep in touch with them frequently. Being cut off by his friends would be the hardest thing for Kevin. Most of his classmates are sensible, so it's unlikely any would stand by him now. Really serves him right. Now, Kevin is left with no one to rely on. Without a job nor supportive people around him, Kevin's future won't look bright. Since then, I've been taking Madison to the hospital regularly for her treatment. Fortunately, Madison's pediatric cancer was detected early, and the prognosis for a complete recovery is high. "Mom, I'm sorry." Madison always seems apologetic, but I love her, so it's not a problem at all. That's why I always respond with, "It's okay. We'll get through this together and get you well soon." The treatment has only just begun. There will be many challenges ahead. But as long as Madison and I are together, I'm sure we can overcome them. Every day, I strive to become the true mom Madison deserves. "This is for you, Mom." Emma said so, but then in the next moment, she flipped the stew onto the floor. "What?" It was the first time my son, Michael's family had come over to our house. I was preparing dinner with Stella, my daughter-in-law, and Emma, my 3-year-old granddaughter. But then Emma, instead of placing the stew at Stella's seat, deliberately spilled it on the floor. It wasn't because she tripped or slipped. She clearly did it on purpose. "Wasting food like that. Why would you do something like this?" I couldn't help but scold Emma harshly. "Because I thought it was easier for Mom to eat." Startled by being scolded, Emma said, crying and shaken, "Easier to eat?" I couldn't believe Emma's words and unconsciously repeated them. "Mom always eats on the floor." "What do you mean?" Sobbing, Emma tried to explain. Hearing Emma's surreal words, I looked at Stella to question her. Seeing Stella with a pale face and her shoulders shrunken, I felt she was hiding something. "Good morning." Today, as always, while looking at the portrait of my deceased husband, I greeted. I have been living alone since my husband Ian passed away a few years ago. The expression on Ian's face in the portrait is grumpy, with a deep furrow between his brows. Thinking back, I hardly ever saw him smile during his lifetime. Our marriage was arranged, and from the beginning, we were careful with each other. We barely spoke, each of us strictly keeping to our roles. A happy marriage seemed far from achievable, and we never went out together even on holidays. At that time, I didn't have friends to call my own, and of course, it was a time when there were no mobile phones, so I came to think that's just what marriage was. Ian would lock himself in his room or go out alone on weekends, coming back late at night. And sometimes we wouldn't even talk at home, always an icy atmosphere prevailing. Yet, my in-laws were persistent in wanting to see a grandchild. Suspecting illness due to the lack of childbirth news, they urged me to go to the hospital repeatedly. Ian, for his part, seemed annoyed being nagged, shared the bedroom with me just for one night. Luckily, I became pregnant and decided to pour all my love into raising the child. Ian showed no interest even as my belly grew, mercilessly assigning me household chores even when I was immobilized by morning sickness and wasn't even there for the birth of our child. When I was too exhausted and asked Ian for help, he dismissed me by saying he was busy. However, when our son Michael was born, Ian changed as if he were a different person and actively involved himself in parenting. For the first time, Ian suggested we go shopping together with Michael. What kind of picture books should we read to Michael? I couldn't hide my joy and spoke to Ian more than usual. Wouldn't this outfit look nice on him? Contrary to my excitement, Ian still had an angry look. He hardly responded and dismissed all my choices with a sigh and told me that he would decide everything. I wanted us to cooperate in parenting, but Ian rejected everything I tried to do or say. Only a man can understand what a boy needs. And eventually, even when feeding Michael, he said he wanted to focus on the meal, so he moved to a separate room. Ian was quite strict about everything from how to hold a fork and a knife and to the order of eating. It took 6 months before Ian approved of Michael's eating manners and allowed him to eat with me. The first time I saw Michael eat, I was astonished by how neatly he did it. He never complained or showed weakness, focusing solely on his studies and not playing with friends. Michael, well done. Why don't you take a break sometimes? I tried to comfort Michael with some cake as a snack while Ian was away. Sweets aren't good for the body. He refused without even glancing my way. As Michael entered high school, he joined the baseball team, wanting to train his spirit, and became a star pitcher of the team. Even after that, thanks to his disciplined effort, he tackled everything with all his might and graduated top of his class from a prestigious university known for its difficulty. Raised by the strict Ian, Michael grew up to be so graceful in his movements that people passing by on the streets would stop and stare. It seems he was even approached by several women for dates. I once saw Michael sighing to himself. Michael, isn't there someone you're interested in? I find it more meaningful to spend my time honing myself, rather than romance. His response to my casual question was marked by an even deeper sigh. Eventually, Michael made neither friends nor lovers, always a lone wolf, establishing himself as an object of admiration from afar. After university, he landed a job at a major publishing company, enviable to many. The publishing company kept him busy, and Michael lived a life of constant business trips, hardly ever returning home. He woke up early every morning and returned home on the last train. With such a lifestyle, he had no chance for encounters, dedicating his days to work alone. Even the formidable Ian would be asleep by the time Michael came home, so I secretly prepared snacks for him. A man's body is his capital. Ian had always fed Michael a perfect meal of one soup and one dish, and so he was forbidden snacks, especially midnight snacks. However, no matter how balanced the diet, it was clear that the hard-working Michael was gradually losing weight due to insufficient nutrition. He's going to collapse if he keeps this up. Michael initially refused the midnight snack, wanting to go to bed early. But one day, after exchanging such words several times, Michael's stomach growled loudly, cutting off his words. The stew is ready. I said, I want to go to sleep. See, the stomach doesn't lie. I gently told Michael, who turned bright red and looked down. Is it really okay for me to eat? Of course. I made it for that reason. Thank you. With a slightly trembling voice, Michael carefully brought the spoon to his mouth. Then, with his spoon in his mouth, Michael froze. Michael, what's wrong? It's delicious. It seemed the taste was shockingly good for Michael. He devoured the steaming stew, even asking for seconds. After finishing 3 plates, Michael showed a smile I had never seen before. Ah, this is the best feeling. I didn't know there was something this delicious. You've worked hard every day. I'll prepare a snack for you tomorrow night too. From that day on, Michael began to eat the midnight snacks I prepared with curiosity. Thanks to that, Michael's weight returned to normal, unbeknownst to Ian. The time for midnight snacks, the only time Michael and I spent together, became the time I also looked forward to as well. "Mom, what's for tonight's snack?" "Tonight, it's ramen." "Ramen? I've been wanting to try that." For Michael, who had never eaten out, the midnight snacks I made were all first-time experiences. Every time, Michael would light up like a child and eagerly eat up the meal. And so, seeing Michael off to work in the morning as usual became part of my daily routine. Michael, having regained his health, made significant progress at work, becoming regarded as the star in the company. This led to a series of invitations from women, it seems. Seeing this, Ian, perhaps unable to stand it, recommended an arranged marriage, and quickly, the discussions concluded, and Michael ended up getting married without any prior dating experience. Michael married Stella, a woman who worked as a secretary to the president of a famous company. Though she was of a quiet demeanor, she appeared to be a polite, serious person. "I am inexperienced, so I ask for your kindness." At our first meeting during the introduction, Stella greeted us politely, a rarity these days. "I will do my best to be a good wife and support Michael." Stella smiled softly, narrowing her beautiful eyes, and I thought she looked as beautiful as a blossoming flower. "We're going to be family, so don't hesitate to rely on us for anything." Happy as if I had gained a daughter, I exchanged contact information with Stella and told her so. Stella, coming from a family that lived a bit far away, nodded happily to my words. "Thank you very much. It's very reassuring." Then, the newlyweds moved to the neighboring town. Anticipating they might have a lot of unfamiliar things to deal with in their new life, I decided to frequently send messages via mobile phone. However, when I asked if they needed any help, Stella, who was already domestic and skilled in household chores, seemed to have quickly won over Michael's heart. It appeared Michael often had to go on business trips due to work, but they seemed to get along well, going shopping together on holidays. Not only that, but Stella also took care of me by giving me candies when I had a sore throat or recommending a good plaster when I mentioned I had hurt my back, always considerate towards me. She would quickly reply to my messages, so I thought there was no need to worry. When I told Ian about Michael and Stella, he nodded as if to say, of course, making me completely at ease. "I'm happy to see them so happy." Michael and Stella were blessed with a daughter named Emma in their 4th year of marriage, bringing me great joy. And I think even Ian softened a bit. However, life doesn't always continue happily. Before Emma turned 2, my Ian suddenly collapsed. Ian, who had lived a life rarely seen smiling, seemed to have been unknowingly harboring stress. By the time he was advised to be hospitalized, it was too late, and cancer had spread throughout his body. And so, Ian passed away, leaving us behind. After the funeral, as I started living alone, messages from Stella, which used to come frequently, gradually became scarce. Even when I offered to help with childcare, I was gently refused, not wanting me to go through the trouble. It started after Ian's funeral. Stella suddenly began acting strangely, and when I inquired about Emma or their life, her responses were curt, and sometimes there was no reply at all. She wouldn't answer phone calls, and I worried every day. Feeling the distance between Stella, Emma, and myself, time passed, and before I knew it, Emma was 3. Thinking at least for Emma's 3rd birthday, I decided to send a message about having a meal at my house. "Happy 3rd birthday to Emma. Have you gotten used to parenting?" "Yes, thank you. It's been a while since we've seen each other. How about a meal at my place?" "No, thank you." Stella's cold reply made me sigh. "I haven't had much to look forward to since I became alone. I want to celebrate my first grandchild's 3rd birthday." After sending such a message, perhaps my feelings got through, as she curtly replied, "All right, we'll go." I had doubts about Stella's sudden consent, but the joy of meeting Emma soon dispelled them. And finally, the day of the family meal arrived. "Stella, it's been a while." I greeted Stella and her somewhat tense family with a smile. "Sierra, it's been a while. Thank you for inviting us today." Wondering if they were nervous after such a long time, I let them into my house. Come on, Emma, say hello to Grandma. Emma, who had been shyly hiding behind Stella, came forward quietly when encouraged and bowed politely. Grandma, hello. Contrary to Stella's uneasy and somber demeanor, Emma greeted me with a bright smile. Emma, hello. I made stew today, let's eat together. Yay! I love stew. It was the first time I had seen Emma since she was just a baby. I was worried she might be shy, but Emma's cheerful and innocent demeanor lifted some of my anxiety. However, Stella, hunched over and unusually vigilant, was not the Stella I knew. She used to be considerate and attentive to her surroundings. While I was concerned about Stella, I decided to wait and see, understanding she might have things she didn't want to talk about. Where's Michael? Stella, looking unsettled, scanned the inside of the house. Oh, Michael will be coming directly from his business trip, so he'll be late. I received a message. Stella, you didn't know? That's right. I'm sorry, I might have missed the message. Stella seemed relieved for a moment and hastily checked her mobile phone as if to hide her expression. I'm sorry, I had a message too. I can't believe I missed it. I feel like a failure as a wife. Stella's blue face and the way she berated herself seemed excessive to me. The message had just come in, so there was no need to worry so much. However, I didn't press further in front of Emma. It's not your fault, it's okay. Sit down, and I'll reheat the stew. Sorry. Her voice was so low I had to ask again. Stella, did you say something? Nothing, it's nothing. Stella seemed even more withdrawn, making me feel she was hiding something from me. It was just a hunch, but these intuitions often prove correct. I'll help you carry it. Emma ran over with an innocent smile, cutting through the tense atmosphere. Oh, thank you. But stay back from the stove, it's dangerous. Emma's offer to help was impressively mature for a 3-year-old. Stella, meanwhile, sat down hesitantly and stared solemnly at her spoon. Here you go, be careful, it's hot. Okay. Emma energetically took her plate and slowly walked over to Stella. And then, here, this is for you, Mom. Emma said, and in the next moment, did something unbelievable. What? Emma deliberately spilled the stew on the floor instead of placing it at Stella's seat. It wasn't because she tripped or slipped. She clearly did it on purpose. Why would you do something like this? Wasting food. I couldn't help but scold Emma harshly. Because it's easier for Mom to eat. Surprised by the scolding, Emma said, crying and shaken. Easier to eat? I couldn't believe Emma's words and repeated them unconsciously. Mom always eats on the floor. Eating on the floor? What do you mean? Mom always eats on the floor because Dad makes her. Emma tried to explain, sobbing. Hearing Emma's surreal words, I looked at Stella, who was trembling and pale. Stella, what's going on? Just as Stella was about to speak, the doorbell rang, and Michael appeared at the entrance. Despite the awkward timing, I quickly cleaned up the spilled stew and welcomed Michael in. I'm home. Did something happen? Michael seemed puzzled by the delay between the doorbell and the door opening. Welcome back. I couldn't leave the stove. I tried to act normally, hiding my agitation. I see, is that stew I smell? Yes, your favorite stew. I felt relieved I had made stew and breathed a sigh of relief. Unaware of anything, Michael cheerfully entered the living room, ignoring Stella's distress and sat down with a thud. Nothing beats Mom's stew. Michael spoke loudly while Stella bit her lip tightly. Feeling the tense atmosphere between them, I forced a smile, struggling to maintain a facade. I was skeptical about Michael making her eat on the floor, but I sensed their relationship wasn't good. The conversation remained superficial, the stew tasted bland, but somehow, the meal ended peacefully. After the Michael family left, I messaged Stella about the incident. The only reply I got was it's nothing. It can't be nothing. I murmured quietly to the mobile phone screen, reflecting on our interactions. Stella's messages have been cold lately. The distant replies didn't seem like they were coming from the caring Stella I knew. Thinking about the incident made me wonder if Michael was controlling her phone. I can't overlook what just happened. I need to check on things myself. With that thought, I decided to visit Michael's house. Even though it's spring, it was already dusk. I shivered in the cold air as I approached their house. Just then, I heard a loud argument. "It's your fault." "What?" That was Michael's voice. Panicked, I pressed the doorbell. Michael, with a forced smile, greeted me. "Mom, we just said goodbye. What brings you back?" "I need to talk to Stella." "What?" "Well, Stella's tired from the visit. I'll pass the message." Michael blocked my way, visibly flustered. "This is an important matter between women." My firm tone left Michael with no choice but to let me in. "Stella?" Looking around inside, I noticed the bathroom light was on. "I'm going in." As I headed to the bathroom, Michael hurried after me, panicking. "Stella's in there, you can't go in now." But I entered the bathroom before Michael could stop me. And what I saw was unexpected. "Stella!" Stella was in the shower, drenched, sitting on the floor. "Sierra." I was cleaning the shower and accidentally turned it on myself. Stella weakly smiled as she spoke to me. "This is terrible, you'll catch a cold." After finding a towel, I wrapped Stella in it, drying her hair and arms. "I can't believe this." "Sorry, Mom, Stella always messes up when I'm not watching." Michael didn't even attempt to get a towel, instead crossing his arms with an angry look. Stella was in a daze, quietly letting me help her. Seeing Stella's slight shivers, I couldn't deny Emma's words were true. "Stella, I've dried you off somewhat, but you need to change immediately." "Sierra, I'm sorry." "Thank you. Always like this." "Stella can't do anything without me." Michael complained, but Stella's fear was evident. Pretending to use the bathroom, I discreetly called the police, and soon the doorbell rang, signaling their arrival. "Who's that?" Michael answered reluctantly. "We've received complaints about loud noises from this house," the officer said, to which Michael lied about a misunderstanding. The officer insisted on speaking with us after checking the neighborhood. "Today's a bad day." Scratching his head, Michael opened the door. 3 officers entered swiftly, one securing Stella and Emma while the others restrained Michael. "What?" Michael resisted desperately, but the officers were unfazed. "What the hell? What did I do?" He knew he couldn't fight off the police, but he still tried to make himself loose. To that the police said in a low voice, "If you don't calm down, you're obstructing the execution of our duties." Michael turned pale and suddenly became quiet. Meanwhile, Stella, overwhelmed by the sudden events, saw the subdued Michael and burst into tears. Looking at me and the officers, she spoke quietly. "I can't take it anymore." Stella revealed her pent-up frustrations. "As soon as we got married, he submitted my resignation without my consent. I protested to the CEO, but no one believed me." Rumors had spread that Stella complained about her low salary and was unhappy with the CEO, none of which were true. Ultimately, her resignation was accepted despite her objections. Life became hell after I became a housewife. First, her mobile phone was taken away. In her unfamiliar married life, it seems Stella had many things she wanted to discuss with me or her parents, but Michael wouldn't listen. Especially about meals. Whatever I cooked was always criticized as bad. I wanted to ask Sierra for recipes, but was told to figure it out on my own. At first, it was just verbal criticisms, so Stella thought she could bear it. Things got worse when Emma was born. He did help with childcare, but Michael appeared to be a kind and good father to Emma, but his verbal abuse towards Stella in her presence increased. After Ian passed, the harassment intensified. Verbal abuse became a routine. Stella was ordered to eat meals on the floor and endured days of being overworked by Michael. When they went shopping, she was only allowed to buy what Michael specified, limiting her outings to the bare essentials. Any slight dissatisfaction from Michael, like a lightly cleaned area or a wrinkled shirt, resulted in Stella being doused with cold shower. Using water as a means of harassment left no physical marks. I had no one to turn to, it was so hard. Tears fell again from Stella's eyes. She confirmed my suspicions of her suffering under Michael's harassment. You've been enduring all alone. It must have been so hard. I regretted not noticing the signs earlier. As I comforted Stella, I reflected on my actions. Michael faced interrogation after everything was revealed. During the interrogation, Michael sat arrogantly, denying any wrongdoing. An officer, unable to overlook Michael's behavior, pressed him hard. Why Stella acted fearfully around Michael, and the reason Emma naturally spilled the stew on the floor were questioned. Even without visible marks, harassment traces could be investigated with modern medical technology, the officer sternly stated. Finally cornered, Michael confessed. I've been under a lot of stress. Michael murmured as if speaking to himself. He resented the strict discipline enforced by his father since childhood. He was strictly told about the order of the meal he ate and the right size he was supposed to eat in one bite. You can't even do this. Harsh scoldings for minor mistakes were part of his upbringing. Forced to learn kanji and English at a young age, Michael was made to revise tirelessly for any mistakes. In elementary school, while peers enjoyed games, Michael was sent to unwanted lessons and cram schools. He revealed his dissatisfaction with all of it. In high school, he was forced into a strict baseball team, despite having no interest. The first time I played soccer during a break, I found it incredibly fun, but my father never allowed me to switch to the soccer team. I was shocked by Michael's words. I trusted Ian to take care of meals in another room, never questioning it, and rejoiced at Michael's academic and extracurricular diligence. All the times you were working so hard, it wasn't because you enjoyed those activities. I didn't know Michael loved soccer and I was unaware of his interactions with Ian. I was just preparing lunches every day without knowing anything about my family. I had no idea you felt that way, Michael. It's natural for you not to know. He said it was a man's promise and made me keep quiet. Michael, adeptly trained mentally, easily maintained composure without my knowledge. He didn't enjoy studying either. He was restricted from popular student activities like gaming and fashion interests. And even his love for sweets was limited. Ultimately, an arranged marriage decided by Ian added to his growing resentment. Having the marriage arranged without his consent, Michael seemed to have started feeling indifferent about everything. Even after getting married and moving away, the pressure of being married to someone chosen by Dad made him feel monitored, and the curse lifted only after Dad's death. I became obsessed with the idea that Stella should strive just like me. That was how Michael concluded. I thought I had raised Michael together with Ian. I had no inkling Michael was enduring such hardship behind my back. The guilt and powerlessness overwhelmed me. Despite Michael and Ian keeping silent, I bear responsibility for not noticing. Stella, this isn't something an apology can fix, but it was my fault for raising him poorly. I'm truly sorry. No. I'm the one who should apologize for not being able to heal Michael's heart. Stella's words, ever so kind, made tears spill from my eyes. Stella, you've done nothing wrong. I'm truly sorry for everything. Afterward, Michael was arrested for assault. Having shared his burdens, he seemed somewhat relieved. He will now have time to reflect and make amends. Stella decided to divorce Michael, taking Emma back to her parents' home. Sierra, thank you for everything. I haven't done anything worthy of your thanks. I decided to support Stella and Emma financially in Michael's stead. Initially hesitant, Stella accepted after I expressed a desire to maintain a good relationship. I'm sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable. I'll always consider you as my family. Thank you. Having a relationship with you and Emma is a great comfort to me." Stella, having settled into her new life, seemed to regain her bright smile. I regularly received photos of Stella and Emma. She also invites me several times a year to visit Emma. "Sierra, would you like to come over sometime? Emma misses you." Seasons have cycled through peaceful days since the incident. Emma started going to elementary school and even visited my house alone. "Exactly, Emma, you're doing great." I was teaching Emma how to make hamburgers during one of her visits. "Grandma, this is fun." Emma showed a carefree smile, shaping the hamburgers perfectly. "Indeed, it's fun. It'd be nice if Mom could join us next time." "Yeah. I'll make a lot." I deeply cherished these moments of happiness. Relieved that Michael hadn't inflicted lasting wounds on Emma, I wished for her to always be smiling. As we placed her small hamburgers in the pan, her eyes sparkled with anticipation for the completion of the meal. "May your life be filled with smiles from now on," I whispered, as if making a vow. My name is Mary. I'm 28 years old. After graduating from college with a degree in life design, I've been working at a design company for 5 years. I have a partner and we recently had a wedding. My partner's name is Kevin. Kevin works in sales at an advertising agency. He's kind and trustworthy. We'd been gradually preparing for our wedding, amidst our work and daily lives. Both of us are only children, and our parents were eagerly looking forward to our marriage. But there's this unbelievable person who tried to ruin our wedding. This time, I want to talk about that person, Rory, a colleague of Kevin's at work. It was a few months after Kevin and I got engaged and had sent out our wedding invitations. I was invited to a cafe by my college friend, Kate. "It's been a while, Kate. What did you want to talk about?" "Mary, what should I do? My boyfriend, he broke off our engagement." "Broke off the engagement? What do you mean?" Asked by a coworker, Kate had reluctantly joined a party to make up numbers. "Just put in an appearance for a minute, and you can leave early." She was told that. I had kept declining again and again because I was engaged, but I couldn't refuse outright. Kate didn't think she drank much, but she got quite drunk. Her memory was fuzzy, and next thing she knew, it was morning. And then I was apparently assaulted while I was drunk and asleep. "No way! By one of the men at the party?" Kate confided with tears streaming down her face. Then, she touched her belly. I was speechless. Kate had gotten pregnant that night at the party. She had maintained a chaste relationship with her fiancé. It definitely wasn't her fiancé's child. Kate couldn't keep it a secret and confessed everything honestly. Then, her fiancé exploded in anger. He scolded her for her careless behavior and called off their engagement. After telling me this, Kate broke down in tears. "What should I do? I'm so stupid. I never thought this would happen." "Kate, it's not your fault. The man who assaulted a drunk woman is to blame. It's a crime. We must make the man responsible face the consequences. We must never give up." I decided to be there for Kate, no matter what. "So, do you know who the guy is?" "Yeah. There were 3 men, but the most suspicious one is..." I was shocked to hear the name. There was someone with the same name among Kevin's colleagues. When I told Kevin about my conversation with Kate, he looked pained. "Rory! Damn it! What a terrible thing he's done. Is it really him? The Rory who's your colleague?" "Yeah. He was bragging a while back about sleeping with a woman from a trading company. We can't forgive this," Kevin said, clenching his fists tightly. Rory worked in sales at the same advertising agency as Kevin, and he's the son of the executive director. His personality was frivolous and he was a bit of a show-off. He tended to get carried away and acted recklessly. Moreover, he lacked a sense of responsibility and tended to shift blame and escaped when things went south. Someone else will clean up his mess, he thinks. He's the worst. He's even blamed me for his mistakes several times. Truly awful. We must make Rory pay for what he did to Kate. In secret, we began to help Kate prepare to sue Rory. Then, a few days later, the day of my wedding with Kevin arrived. The issue with Kate was still unresolved, but the wedding couldn't be postponed. I did contact Kate to apologize. I'm sorry, my friend is going through a tough time, and here I am getting married. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry for canceling my attendance so suddenly. Kate congratulated me on my wedding multiple times. Determined to honor her feelings, I decided to make today's ceremony beautiful. But one thing bothered me. Rory, a colleague of the groom, was also there. I'm really sorry. If we didn't invite him, it would cause trouble later. It's okay. We can't help it. Let's make him pay for his crimes after this is over. Rory was making a scene, drinking more than enough welcome drinks. He was more conspicuous than us at our wedding reception. And it wasn't in a good way. His face was bright red. His eyes leered. And he wouldn't stop talking. His inner ugliness was all too apparent on the outside. This man ruined my dear friend's future. I wished he would just leave. But I couldn't say such a thing. I endured it, following Kevin's lead. All the while, Rory continued his commotion. As the reception progressed, it was time for the best man's speech. Suddenly, Rory enthusiastically raised his hand. Hey, hey, hey! Let me as a colleague say a few words first. It wasn't planned, but Kevin's dad allowed it, thinking it was a good opportunity. Kevin and I exchanged glances. We had a bad feeling. Rory, unsteady on his feet, went to the microphone and bowed. Then he grinned. Actually, I have some unfortunate news for everyone here. Our groom, Kevin. You see, he once impregnated my girlfriend. The banquet hall erupted into chaos. Everyone's attention turned to Kevin. I saw Kevin's mom faint in the family section of the groom's side. My relatives stood up one after another and demanding. What do you mean? Explain this. Kevin was cornered and visibly shaken. The staff was confused. Rory was laughing loudly. He clearly enjoying the turmoil he caused. I couldn't stand it anymore. Enough is enough. What's fun about making up nonsense and troubling people? You're the one who assaulted my friend and got her pregnant. I know it. I will never forgive you for what you did to my friend, and we will definitely sue you. My outburst suddenly quieted the hall. I borrowed a microphone from a nearby staff member and continued. Recently, my friend was assaulted at a party and became pregnant against her will. She's in utter despair. The perpetrator of that assault is him, Rory. No, not true. Don't make up such nonsense. It's not a lie, we have evidence. We conducted a DNA test on the fetus. It didn't match with any man but you. What? When did they do such a test? Everything is almost ready for the lawsuit. Be prepared. Honestly, I didn't want to invite you here. Kevin and I struggled with it. But the incident came to light after we sent the invitations, so we endured it. At the request, I passed the microphone to Kevin. He sighed deeply, glared at Rory, and said, You recklessly lie ruined Mary and my reception. I'll never forget this grudge. You will pay for your crimes. Now, all eyes in the hall were on Rory. Caught in his guilt, Rory started yelling pathetically. Kevin, you're getting too big for your boots. It's your fault for getting married. You shouldn't have gotten married before me, someone like you. Rory was subdued by security and escorted out of the venue. He continued to resist pathetically until the end. As order was restored, the reception resumed. Kevin's boss, Tom, addressed the situation. I apologize for my subordinate's terrible behavior. He will be dealt with severely. His misconduct and lies have been a major issue within our company. As his superior, I deeply regret not guiding him properly." Tom apologized. And then he esteered Kevin's honor. Meanwhile, Kevin's sincerity is well known in our company. Even when troubled by that man earlier, Kevin handled it calmly. His focus on maintaining harmony in the department, rather than his personal interests, is truly admirable. There aren't many men as trustworthy and promising as Kevin. Mary, you're lucky. You've found a wonderful partner. I sincerely congratulate the two of you on your marriage," Tom concluded. The hall erupted in applause. Then, relatives and friends came to congratulate us. Everyone apologized to Kevin, saying they were sorry for doubting him. Kevin just gave a wry smile. A warm atmosphere returned to the hall. If it weren't for that man, Kate could have enjoyed such happiness too. While enjoying the reception, my hatred for Rory deepened. Later, I heard Rory was hung out to dry at Kevin's company. Tom was really angry and explained everything at the executive meeting. The executive director, Rory's father, was present. He deeply apologized to the president and everyone in the meeting room. "Please allow me to apologize, as a father. My son has caused you all great inconvenience. I'm truly sorry." "Dad! No, it's not like that. I didn't mean to. About the party, it was just the alcohol and an irresistible force." "Shut up. I don't want to hear another word from you. I made a mistake in how I raised you. You're a burden to the company, a disgrace to our family. You're the blemish of my life." Even after being disowned by his father, Rory continued his pathetic resistance. But his misconduct and foolishness were already well known to all. Not a single employee sided with Rory or tried to help him. Eventually, Rory chose to resign voluntarily. Everyone at work was relieved. Kevin told me that. It was truly pitiful to be rejoiced at one's departure. Naturally, no one attempted to organize a farewell party for Rory. Packing his belongings, Rory left the company with drooped his shoulders. There were developments in the assault case too. Kate's former fiancé filed a claim for damages against Rory. The cost of the engagement ring, the money paid to the venue, cancellation fees, and more. He had covered most of it. The claim for damages is quite substantial. "Kate, what about you? The Rory's lawyer offered a settlement, right?" "I absolutely refuse to just take the money and end this. He must atone for his crime." Kate no longer had the baby in her womb. She had a miscarriage at 4 months. Likely it was due to the intense stress and sorrow she endured. The sad experience seemed to have made Kate stronger. The amount of damages demanded from Rory by Kate's ex-fiancé was around $30,000. Rory tried to borrow money from his parents, but they firmly refused. So, he had to cover it all with his savings and loans. Rory tried to find a new job but struggled to make it to the final interview. His frivolous appearance must be getting in the way, Kevin speculated. Recently, Rory has been working multiple part-time jobs just to earn his daily expenses. Most of the money he earns, however, goes towards paying off his debts. A few days later, I got a message from Kate saying she had filed a lawsuit against Rory. She was ready to fight, with her lawyer by her side. DNA tests and testimonies confirmed that Rory was undoubtedly the father of the child. Taking advantage of someone drunk and unconscious to commit a forceful act falls under the crime of sexual assault. The statutory penalty is a fixed-term imprisonment of at least 5 years. Unfortunately for Kate, Rory's lawyer was quite skilled. In the end, Rory was sentenced to 4 years in prison. As he was leaving the courtroom, he repeatedly apologized to Kate. "I was apologized to over and over, but I never thought of forgiving him. That's right. He should live the rest of his life atoning for his sins." Rory's actions, driven by his desires, disrupted Kate's life. The extinguishing of a small life was not unrelated to him. The crime committed by Rory was not only taking the precious life of a fetus but also subjecting the mother to immense stress. Rory, who acted recklessly without thinking of the consequences, caused suffering to many. He should spend his entire life atoning for his sins. I strongly wished it. The 4 years without Rory seemed to bring calm to many. I heard Kate recently started a new relationship. I told him everything. About being a victim of sexual crime, about the miscarriage. It was hard. But he said it must have been tough. I'll take care of everything. It's wonderful. Really wonderful that you found such a great person. When I heard the story, I couldn't help but tear up myself. A person who knew about Kate's emotional scars and the details of the incident, yet still chooses to stay by her side. He seems to be a much more understanding and kinder man than her previous fiancé. In these past 4 years, Kevin and I also became parents. Our child is a boy, now a year and a half old. Kevin looks after him when I'm not around. Every day, we're fumbling through parenting, hustling and bustling. How about you, Mary? How's married life? Is the baby cute? Thanks to you, all is well. We fight sometimes, but our child is unconditionally adorable. I'm envious. I want a child soon too. I still think about the one I lost. Kate. Don't blame yourself, okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm looking forward. Someday, I want to welcome a child with my current partner. And this time, I want to love them with all my heart. Kate's emotional wounds will probably never completely heal. But I'm sure the happy times ahead will heal her. Let's both keep pushing forward. That day, Kate and I waved goodbye to each other. One day, Kevin told me he had encountered Rory, who had been released from prison. When he was walking down the street during work, Rory approached him. His hairstyle and look were different, but his eyes and way of speaking were the same. Kevin said with a look of disgust. Apparently, Rory had asked him for money. He's been going around asking acquaintances for money, even just $1. When he asked me if he managed to borrow any, I just replied, "Don't ask." Of course. No one would want to deal with him. Everyone knows about his crimes. What happened next? He started saying, "Why me?" So I scolded him. It's your own fault your life is a mess. Reflect on it. Rejected by Kevin, Rory slumped his shoulders and disappeared into the crowd. Later, Kevin heard a disheartening story about Rory from the executive director. Rory had cunningly swindled money from a young relative who had just started working. That fool. He said he could multiply the money through investments. How awful! What happened to the money? We caught him and made him return it all. Then, we cut him off. I'm fed up. I'm really sorry for the trouble my son caused, especially at your wedding. If he troubles you again, please contact me right away. Thank you so much, sir. The executive director looked very tired, perhaps due to the stress. Having a child with such a character brought unimaginable hardships to parents. Kevin felt truly sorry for him. He strongly hoped his unfilial son, Rory, would receive the punishment he deserved. A few months later, on a holiday afternoon, Kevin and I went for a drive. The purpose was to get our child to nap. When we put him in the car, he fell asleep quickly. There was a large river running through the city, with vast riverbanks on both sides. When I was gazing out absent-mindedly, I let out an unintentional "Aw, what's wrong? Did you forget something?" "No, it's not that. I just saw someone down by the riverbank." "It was him." "Him? You mean Rory?" "Yes. He was dirty and disheveled, walking with others dressed similarly." Even from a distance, his walk and gestures made it clear. It was undoubtedly Rory. Now, it seemed he found a place to stay somewhere along this riverbank. He was probably scraping his living by collecting cans and old books to sell. He might be lining up for soup kitchens, or perhaps even scavenging leftover food. I didn't feel sorry for him. Rather, it seemed fitting for someone like him. Rory, who hurt my friend and tried to ruin Kevin's and my wedding. For years in prison was too lenient. I thought he deserved to atone for his actions over a much longer period. Hoped he would fall even lower than where he was now. I strongly wished that. Life for Kevin and me has been smooth sailing. Calm, without major troubles, just as we'd hoped. Our relationship with both of our in-laws is good, and our child is growing up healthy. Neither Kevin nor I have any intention of spoiling our child. We don't want to raise someone who finds joy in others' suffering. What's right and what's wrong. What it means to behave as a decent human being. I want to be a parent who can properly convey these values. Rory's crimes have led us to these convictions. In that sense, his existence may not be entirely useless. To ruin our wedding? It's not like that. I just wanted to say that you're spending too much money unnecessarily. I know you are poor, but Ryan is going to be the next president of the company, right? He doesn't need to worry about money. Even if he is the next president, this is too much. That's not true. I just wanted to see your happy face, and when I told Ryan that, he was willing to do anything I said. What? It seems he really likes you. He generously spent money whenever it was for you. Her words hit me like a stab with a knife. As I looked at her face in surprise, and she looked back at me with a sly smile. You took advantage of his feelings for me. Anger welled up inside me. To that, Jessica added another shocking statement. So what? If you're going to complain more, can you please leave? We don't need a low-educated, poor mother. Please don't associate with us ever again. Her words, filled with a sense of superiority, rapidly fueled my anger. I won't forgive this. Enjoy your triumph while it lasts. As she walked away looking down on me, I stared at her back, making a firm resolution to attend the reception. My name is Amy. I was widowed and now live with my son Ryan. My parents' home was poor, so I started working right after graduating from junior high. Later, I met and married a man who started his own company. Decades later, even when my husband's business stabilized and we had more financial freedom, my habit of saving remained, and I still live that way today. Neither my husband nor Ryan ever spoke ill of my frugality. Instead, they accepted it and joined me in being economical. Ryan, with his generous nature, even now as a working adult, accepts my frugality without complaint. After my husband passed away, the company is now led by my brother-in-law, Dylan, as the president. Ryan works there and is a candidate for the next president. Despite this, he hasn't let it go to his head and continues to live as usual. He, whom I raised alone after my husband's death, is my pride and joy. Sometimes I worry that he's too considerate and putting himself under strain, but his kindness is also something I'm proud of. Since working for the company, he has become even more independent, and recently he has become a very reliable man. So, when he told me he had a girlfriend, I felt a bit lonely, but I was happy enough to genuinely wish them well. She was introduced to me by a friend, and she's really a great person. He spoke with joy, and I smiled back. I want to start a family soon to give Mom peace of mind. That's why I'm thinking about marrying my girlfriend. Oh, thank you. But you haven't been together that long, right? Don't rush into marriage just because you're worried about me. It's your life, Ryan, make sure you make the decision for yourself. It's heartwarming to know he cares about me. But I didn't want him to choose his life partner just to reassure his mother. However, knowing that he has a girlfriend, seeing how happy he is, and above all, realizing how much he thinks of me, warms my heart. I thought to myself how lucky I am to have him. 6 months after hearing about his girlfriend, they seemed really serious about marriage, and he said she would be coming to our house. Though he had spoken about his girlfriend Jessica before, this would be my first time meeting her. I was looking forward to meeting Jessica, who might become his wife. Amy, is it true you didn't go to college? And yet you managed to raise such a fine child as Ryan. This was said by Jessica after we introduced ourselves and chatted a bit, while Ryan had stepped away from the table. She looked at me with a provocative gaze.
Yes. He has really grown up to be a fine young man.
I barely managed to reply, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of discomfort from her words. Though she seemed to be praising him, I felt there was a mocking tone towards me.
Fine, huh? You don't hold back on the praise. Usually, people are more modest. Oh, maybe you don't know these common social norms, not having gone to college. What? Sorry, I was just wondering. It's really amazing, though. Raising a child in a fatherless home, I could never do that.
Her words said one thing, but her mouth was slightly smirking.
What were you two talking about?
When he returned and asked, she promptly replied.
We were just talking about how amazing Amy is for raising such a wonderful person like you. I really respect Amy.
She said this with a smile at me. But I felt a thorn in her words and couldn't help feeling uneasy.
That's right. He is going to be the next president, isn't he?
The conversation shifted to the future of the two of them, and inevitably to his upcoming promotion. Jessica seemed captivated by the idea of he becoming the next president. In contrast, he responded calmly.
It's just because my uncle is the president, and that's what people say. I'm still inexperienced and need to study and grow more. It's Dad's company, so I can't take over halfway and let it fail.
What?
But you'll become the president eventually, right?
She asked, a bit flustered.
I'll work hard to make that happen.
He replied with a smile, but she seemed somewhat unsatisfied.
Before talking about being president, I need to get promoted first. The responsibilities vary with each position, and I need to understand those roles too.
When I gave this advice, he nodded firmly. Her eyes sparkled again.
When you get promoted, your salary will increase, right? Since you're talked about as the next president, I guess your income will keep getting better.
Her interest seemed piqued by words like next president and salary. The discomfort I felt towards her remained even after she left.
Hey, I hate to say this, but do you think Jessica is marrying you for your money? She seemed really interested in your salary and the talk of you becoming the next president.
I couldn't help but ask him. It's his life and his family. I may not have a right to interfere, but I couldn't stay silent, considering his happiness. But Ryan denied it.
I don't think so. She is concerned about money because she plans to manage our finances after we get married. Finances are important in marriage.
Oh, so you two have talked it over.
Yeah. She said she would manage our finances after we marry. She's always been responsible, so it'll be fine.
If that's the case.
Mom, I'm 28 now. I'm an adult, so don't worry about me that much.
His smile swept away my worries. Seeing his expression, I came to a realization. Maybe I was just feeling something like jealousy towards her. Is this how a mother feels when her son is getting married? That thought strangely made sense to me. But I would later realize that this idea was a mistake. A year after meeting Jessica, their wedding is today. I don't know any details about the wedding. She asked me not to interfere too much. Indeed, the wedding is about the two of them, and it's an important event for their future married life. I decided to quietly watch over them and looked forward to this day. But, when I arrived at the venue, I was so surprised that I was rooted to the spot. Because the rented venue was decorated so lavishly, it was beyond what ordinary people could afford. In the waiting room, there was a quiz corner where guests could guess the color of the dress Jessica would wear for her dress change. I had seen such features in weddings before, but there was one clear difference this time. There were 2 dress changes, and the dresses were in 2 different colors. Furthermore, the menu listed ingredients that were extravagantly high-end. Even the entertainment included a professional magician. I had attended many weddings, but this was the first time I saw one so luxurious and obviously expensive. I never imagined experiencing this at my own son's wedding. It was just too much. Feeling anxious and worried about their wedding. I decided I had to talk to Ryan and headed to their waiting room. Then I saw Dylan and Jessica. She was humbly and politely responding to Dylan's congratulations.
Thank you so much. Please continue to look after him. I'll do my best to support him too.
Of course. We have high hopes for him. I'm counting on you as well.
Yes, I'll do my utmost.
As she smiled at me, Jessica's expression turned scornful in an instant. Feeling uneasy, I hurried over to her. Then I asked about the situation.
Jessica, it's been a while. You told me not to interfere too much, so I've been quiet, but isn't this too extravagant? One dress change is enough. The wedding should be more modest.
While I was flustered, she looked relaxed and unapologetically replied, "It's already decided. Bringing it up now is troublesome." My mind went blank, unable to find words. She then looked at me with the same provocative eyes as when we first met.
Are you trying to ruin our wedding? It's not like that. I just wanted to say that you're spending too much money unnecessarily. I know you are poor, but Ryan is going to be the next president, right? He doesn't need to worry about money. Even if he is the next president, this is too much.
That's not true.
I just wanted to see your happy face, and when I told him that, he was willing to do anything I said. What?
It seems he really likes you.
He generously spent money whenever it was for you.
Her words hit me like a stab with a knife. Shocked, I looked at her face, and she was giving me a disdainful look.
You took advantage of his feelings for me.
Anger welled up inside me. To that, she added another shocking statement.
So what?
If you're going to complain more, can you please leave? We don't need a low-educated, poor mother.
Please don't associate with us ever again.
Her words, filled with a sense of superiority, rapidly fueled my anger. I won't forgive this. Enjoy your triumph while it lasts. I, seething with anger but resolute, stared at her back as she walked away, looking down on me, and then I joined the reception.
May I now have Amy, the mother of the groom, come forward?
The MC announced, guiding me to the microphone. I knew I had to give a speech, as Ryan had informed me beforehand, but it seemed Jessica was unaware. The situation was different from what I had imagined. Jessica, who had told me to leave, was now silently exuding a disgruntled aura as I, who she told to leave, was about to give a speech.
Thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the marriage of Ryan and Jessica. Ryan and I have always supported each other throughout our lives.
I began my speech, sharing my thoughts about Ryan. After narrating old episodes, I continued.
However, it seems that from today, I must let go of him. Therefore, I am firing him.
The room erupted in murmurs. Dylan, along with other company attendees, looked shocked and confused. The noise in the room grew louder. Among them, Jessica was the first to speak out.
Fired? What are you talking about? Amy, who isn't even part of the company, can't make such decisions. You should think before you speak. Even as a mother, there are limits.
Jessica, what are you saying?
I am firing Ryan. You said you didn't need a low-educated, poor me, and told me to never associate with you again. That's...
Moreover, it seems you were only after his money.
And Ryan, choosing someone like you, I can't trust him anymore. That's why I am firing him.
My words intensified the murmurs in the room. Jessica, her harsh words exposed, turned red-faced. Ryan, glaring at her, questioned.
What do you mean a low-educated, poor mom is unnecessary? Did you say that to Mom? And about being after money? It's fine, isn't it? We're going to live together. We don't need your mom, who has neither education nor money. Even if she says that, she can't fire you. Mom is the chairperson of my company. What?
Her face, which was red, now turned pale upon hearing his words. In a clearly panicked tone, she responded.
But, you said she didn't go to college. How can someone like that be a chairperson? That's the truth. The company was started by Dad. Mom has been involved since its foundation. Now, she understands the company more than anyone and holds the real executive power. Why didn't you tell me such important things earlier? If you had, none of this would have happened. Instead of apologizing, she began blaming him. But he looked at her with disdain. I plan to tell you about the company's details eventually. But now, there's no need. The marriage is off, so there's no need to explain anymore. What? What do you mean the marriage is off? It's obvious. I can't marry you, who looks down on mom and is only after money. The wedding is cancelled. His voice carried an air of authority. Jessica, realizing the gravity of the situation, suddenly turned to me, desperately seeking support. Please forgive me, Amy. I didn't know you were the chairperson, and I was terribly rude. I won't belittle you anymore, she said, but of course, I had no intention of forgiving her. That's impossible. You mean you would have continued to belittle me if I weren't the chairperson? I can't be family with someone who can't respect others and whose hobby is squandering money. Goodbye. With that, I started to leave the venue. Following me, Dylan stood up, and then the other attendees began to prepare to leave. Wait, please don't go, everyone! She screamed, but no one even looked at her with sympathy. My relatives expressed relief that he hadn't married such a person, and Jessica's relatives looked utterly disgusted. Her friends, who had been condescending thinking she would become a CEO's wife, were also displeased with her recent attitude and quickly began to leave. Everyone left Jessica standing there, stunned. Ryan and I returned the wedding gifts, apologizing to the guests as we saw them off. After everyone had left, he muttered apologetically, "Mom, I'm sorry. I wanted to reassure you, but instead, it turned out we can't even work together anymore. That's why I told you not to worry about me so much. And about the firing, that's no longer happening." I said I couldn't trust you who choose a partner only after money. That's why I was going to fire you. But now that the marriage with Jessica is off, I won't fire you. He looked perplexed by my words. Thank you, Mom. I'll work even harder from now on. Your happiness is what matters most to me. I gently patted his back. Later, he officially broke off the engagement with Jessica, and they decided to split the wedding costs. Jessica had assumed Ryan would pay for the entire wedding and keep the gifts from her attendees for herself. Unable to pay her credit card bills for the esthetician, beauty salon, and other expenses, she ended up in debt. She, already unemployed and without money, hastily tried to marry for money again, but her next partner turned out to be a marriage scammer, further increasing her debt. Now, her whereabouts are unknown. Meanwhile, our family bond strengthened even more after this incident. Ryan seemed to respect me more than ever, now focusing on work rather than marriage to reassure me. Thanks to his dedication, the company grew even more. Recently, the president of a company we've long done business with introduced his daughter to Ryan. I've worked with his daughter a few times, and Ryan seems quite interested in this new acquaintance. It looks like a wonderful meeting for him, who has now fully grown into a fine man, and I'm excited for him.
On opening the front door, there was my sad-looking mother. Half a year ago, they started rebuilding our family home, and today was the moving day. Why was my mother, who was supposed to be heading to her new home, at mine and my husband's place? Mom, what happened? Why are you here? Well, you see, what my mother told me was a truth that was difficult to accept. My name is Kate. I'm 28 years old. I've been married to Jason for almost 2 years, and we live together in an apartment. My family consists of my mother and older brother. My father passed away due to illness 6 years ago, and my mother has been living alone in our family home. My brother, Sam, got married 3 years ago and lives happily with his wife, Monica. That day was my father's Memorial Day, so my husband and I, along with my brother and his wife, gathered at our family home. During this gathering, my brother suddenly suggested something.
Mom, why don't you live with us?
Eh? Caught off guard by my brother's unexpected words, my mother seemed a bit shaken. Live together? Sam, you're living with Monica, aren't you?
Well, you've been living alone in this house since Dad passed away, right? The family home is getting old, too.
Well, that's true, but... Seeing my mother's awkward response, I asked my brother, Brother, are you serious? When you got married, didn't you want to spend your newlywed life alone with Monica? So you started living in your current apartment. And their rooms?
Well, that's true. But we've been married for a few years now, and I thought it might be nice to rebuild our family home and live together.
Rebuild the family home and live together?
Yeah, this house is getting pretty worn out, right? So we'll rebuild it, and then we can all live together with Mom.
I see. Rebuilding the family home. I hadn't thought of that either. I initially thought he was suddenly saying something outrageous, but maybe he had thought it through. My brother turned back to my mother and said,
Mom, we don't know what the future holds. I want to repay you for raising us. So, won't you live with us?
But... Not able to make up her mind, my mother hesitated. Seeing her like that, my brother kindly reassured her.
Don't worry, Mom. Monica agrees with us living together, too.
Monica does?
Yes, so relax, and let's live together.
Well, if you insist, maybe I should, my sister-in-law also said. Please, happily agreeing to live with my mother. I thought my mom would be at ease, living with my brother and his wife. I was grateful to my brother for considering my mother's well-being. With my mother's help in funding the reconstruction, the decision was made for her to live with my brother and his wife. And so, it was settled that our family home would be rebuilt.
The new house is finally complete,
my brother reported. Today is the day my mother moves in with my brother and his wife. While preparing breakfast, I received a call from my mother. Oh, Kate? Sorry for calling so early. That's fine. What's up? In response to my question, my mother chuckled. What's up? Today's moving day. I'm so excited. I see. So that's what it is, Mom. You were really looking forward to this, huh? Of course. Just living with my own child is enough to make me happy. But it's also a new house. Can I really be this happy? It's like a dream, my mother said with a happy voice. After chatting for a while, my mother headed to her new home. It must have been around noon. While working from home, the intercom rang. Hello? Huh? Mom? I opened the door to find my mother looking sad. Today is moving day. My mother should have already gone to her new home. So why is she here? Although puzzled, I asked my mother, Mom, what's wrong? My mother hung her head and said nothing. Feeling that something was off, I pressed my mother a bit harder. Mom, today's moving day, right? Why are you here? Well, I was told to get out. Huh? Get out? My brother should be at work since the morning, right? It wasn't Sam. It was Monica. What? My sister-in-law told my mom to get out? Is this some kind of joke? My sister-in-law, who had happily accepted the idea of living with my mother. Why? Wait a minute. This is a joke, right? My sister-in-law said yes, please, to living with Mom, didn't she? I thought she accepted it too, but when I arrived at the new house, she suddenly said, I can't live with you, please leave. What is that? When I heard the details, the story was unbelievable. After handing over her belongings to the moving company, my mother went to the new house where my brother's wife was already there. and as soon as she saw my mother, she blurted it out. "I can't live with you. Get out." "Why would you say such a thing?" When my mother asked, my brother's wife frowned and retorted, "If there's an old person in our brand new house, it'll bring down the mood. If my husband's mother is around, we won't be able to have a proper married life." I couldn't believe on the day she moved in, after rebuilding our family home with the condition of living with our mother, she would be kicked out. I was utterly furious at my sister-in-law's words and actions. My mother was completely disheartened and slumped on the sofa. Unable to bear the sight, I called my brother. "Hello, big brother."
"Ah, Kate, what's up?"
"This isn't just what's up. What on earth is your wife thinking?" Startled by my anger, my brother responded.
What? What happened all of a sudden?"
It seemed he hadn't heard anything from his wife. "Big brother, listen carefully. Mom is at my place now."
"Huh? Mom is? Today is moving day, right? Why is she at your house?"
"It's because of your wife."
"Monica? What did Monica do?"
"That's what I'm saying. She kicked Mom out."
"What? You've got to be kidding!"
I explained the situation to my panicked brother, recounting what I'd heard from our mother. After hearing the story, my brother let out a deep sigh.
"Geez, why would Monica do that?"
"I want to know too. Mom was really looking forward to living with you guys, you know? But now this?"
"Anyway, when I get home, I'll talk to Monica. Can you take care of Mom until then?"
"Take care? I'm going to let Mom stay with us. She said she doesn't want to see Monica anymore." I couldn't help but get emotional and ended up scolding my brother. My brother muttered apologetically,
"I see. Yeah."
The call with my brother ended on an awkward note. I briefly explained the situation to my husband via email and told him the details when he got home. The next day, my brother called again.
"Kate?"
"Big brother, did you properly talk to Monica?" As soon as I confronted him, my brother replied,
"Yeah, well, I did."
He then began to share the details of their conversation from last night.
"Monica insists that Mom left on her own."
"Huh? Are you joking? Are you saying Mom's lying?"
"No, it's not that. I don't think Mom would lie either."
Although annoyed by my brother's roundabout explanation, I replied,
"So, I told Monica straight up, Mom isn't the kind of person to lie." And then she finally told the truth. The truth. It would be a bother to have Mom around now that we finally get to live in a new house. Eventually we'll have kids, so let's just live here with the two of us.
"Ha! I knew it!"
"I'm sorry, Kate. Just like you said, she kicked Mom out. I'm really sorry."
I didn't know what to say to my brother, who muttered tearfully. It was wrong to blame my brother, but I couldn't suppress my anger. "What are you going to do now? You're not planning to live happily with her, just the two of you."
"About that, I have an idea."
An idea. And then my brother revealed a certain plan to me. It seemed my brother cared for our mother more than I had realized. His plan was something I could never have come up with. If the plan worked, not only would it be revenge on my sister-in-law, but our mother would be able to live happily as well.
That's why I need a little more time. I'm sure Monica will contact you in a few days.
I readily agreed to my brother's request. "Understood. I'll let Mom know. The rest is up to you, big bro. Right?"
"Yeah, leave it to me."
I informed my mother and husband of my brother's plan and began preparing for it. Surprisingly early, I received a phone call from my sister-in-law on my smartphone. "Hello?" Hello, Kate?" My sister-in-law sounded frantic over the phone, panting heavily. "Sis, what's the matter?" I asked her deliberately, and an irritated voice came back. "Please, just put your mother on the phone." That's impossible. Mom doesn't seem to want to talk to you, Monica. Don't say that. It's not because of that right now. What do you mean? Anyway, I want your mother to come back. Tell her. Let's live together again. Knowing everything, I purposefully asked her, "Why this sudden change of heart?" "You were the one who drove Mom out, weren't you, Monica?" "Yes, but circumstances have changed. I'm in trouble if your mother doesn't come back." "So, why is that?" "That has nothing to do with you, Kate." My sister-in-law continued to yell without answering any of my questions, so I fought back. "Sis, it must be hard, being pressured to divorce by my brother?" My sister-in-law asked with a trembling voice. "How did you know?" "Well, we're siblings, so I heard it beforehand from my brother. He's considering divorcing you under certain conditions." "So, Kate, you and Sam are trying to set me up too?" "Set up? We just want you to reflect on your actions." "No, I don't want to. I married Sam to become a stay-at-home wife." "That's right. My brother's plan was to prevent his wife from living a carefree life any longer. My sister-in-law had always admired being a stay-at-home wife, and when she married my brother, "I want to be a stay-at-home wife." My brother, who had a high income and loved his wife, accepted her opinion and let her be a stay-at-home wife. However, as a result, she turned into a worthless wife who did nothing but laze around at home. Her housework and cooking were half-hearted, and my brother was having a hard time with her. In addition to this incident of driving my mother out, my brother's anger finally exploded. He ordered his wife to work as well, using the loan repayment during the rebuilding as a reason. "If you don't earn money, we'll divorce," he said. "Why do I have to work?" She screamed shrilly over the phone. "Give me a break. I finally became a stay-at-home wife after getting married. I will never give up my current position." I provocatively responded to my emotional sister-in-law. "Originally, my mother was going to help with the rebuilding funds. Since you drove her out, you have no choice but to pay, right?" "Don't be ridiculous. Why do I have to work? Just send your mother back here. Everything will be settled if she comes back." "That's impossible. My mother refuses." "What did you say?" Enough already. I scolded my sister-in-law. "When you get down to it, isn't it your fault for kicking my mother out? At first you agreed to live together, but once my mother moved in, you said, 'My mother-in-law was in the way. Don't mess with me. The world doesn't revolve around you. If you won't accept my mother, you'd better work yourself to death to avoid getting divorced from my brother.'" My mother must have heard me yelling as she snatched the smartphone from my hand. "Monica, it's me." "Oh, mother-in-law, what are you doing? Please, come back quickly." "Sorry, but I won't be returning there. I won't help with the rebuilding, and I'll never get involved with you again. So please don't come near me again." "What? Mother-in-law?" Without listening to my sister-in-law's excuses, my mother hung up the phone. That felt great for the first time in a while. That's the end of dealing with that daughter-in-law." My mother must have learned of my sister-in-law's true colors after being kicked out. She issued a de facto disownment. On the other hand, my brother keeps repeating, "If you don't find a job by the end of this month, we'll divorce." My sister-in-law must be feeling very concerned. At first, she was adamant. "I will never work. But when my brother presented the divorce papers, she immediately started looking for a job. However, she has a significant gap in her work history, making it difficult to find a job in her desired field.
Please, Kate, lend me some money. I'll really get divorced at this rate. Help me. If mother-in-law comes back, everything will work out. Please.
Lately, messages like these have been arriving on my smartphone. Of course, I haven't replied at all. I have no intention of helping her now. In the end, my sister-in-law's job hunt failed completely. Just the other day, the divorce was finalized, and she was apparently kicked out by my brother. Meanwhile, my mother is still living with my husband and me. Because we used to live apart, we occasionally have arguments, but being close to my real mother is still a happy thing. Kate, I want to eat barbecue today.
What, Mom? Won't that be hard on your stomach?
My stomach is still going strong. Jason will be home early today, right? Let's drink a beer together.
All right, but don't overdo it.
I know.
In fact, my mother seems to be brighter than before. My husband also takes good care of my mother, so our home is always full of smiles. On a personal note, I have just found out that I am pregnant. I think I will tell my mother about it tonight at the patio party. I am sure she will be delighted. From now on, I would like to spend happy days with my husband, my mother, and my unborn child.
My husband is cheating on me. Apparently, he's been showering his mistress with designer goods. What's more, he used my credit card for these extravagant purchases. I've put up with it for our son's sake, but I've reached my limit. I can't forgive this. I have to do something. The one who came to my aid was the last person I expected. My name is Flora, 35 years old. I've been married to Adam for 10 years. Our beloved son Dominic turned 8 this year. Always having loved reading, I'm now living my dream as a novelist, my chosen career. My mystery series gained a significant following, allowing me to secure several monthly serials. Thankfully, my standalone books are also selling well, keeping me busy every day. Initially, my husband had a job, but the moment I started earning, he quit. For the last 2 or 3 years, he's mostly lounged around at home, occasionally going out to play pachinko. Yet today, unusually, he's changed into a suit. Something's not right. Why the suit? I decided to boldly ask my husband. Adam, it's rare to see you in a suit. Where are you going? My husband's eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly returned to his usual tone and said, A job interview. A job interview? For what? Well, it's obviously for a job, right? I thought it might be time for me to start working again. I see. Good luck. Yeah, I'm off. At that moment, I genuinely believed he was going for a job interview. I thought that with our son still so young, he had reconsidered his priorities for the future. However, my husband didn't return home until 1 a.m. that night. I happened to be awake because of a looming deadline. Reeking of alcohol and perfume, he fell asleep on the living room sofa. In his hand was his smartphone, unlocked. Out of sheer curiosity, I peeked at my husband's phone. What? What is this? I can't believe this! To cut to the chase, my husband was cheating on me. What's more shocking, his affair was with my best friend, Delphine. It seemed like they had been to a fancy restaurant with a beautiful night view that day. The shock was like a dull blow. It was too much. How could Adam cheat on me with Delphine? Why? Doesn't Delphine have a husband too? I trusted them both. The unexpected reality hit me and tears welled up in my eyes. Knowing I shouldn't wake my husband, I stifled my sobs. Evidence. Yes, evidence. For now, I sent the evidence of the affair to my own phone and decided to think about the next steps. The next morning, I casually asked my husband, who was acting as usual, "Hey, Adam, about yesterday." "Yesterday?" "You know, you said you had an interview, but you came home late. I was just wondering what happened." Then my husband averted his eyes, showing signs of thinking up an excuse. "Actually, I ran into a friend after the interview. We ended up going for a drink." "A friend? Who?" "Some guy you don't know, Flora. Do I need to explain everything?" "Yeah, you're right." As expected, my husband concealed the fact that he had met with Delphine. His affair was clear from this attitude as well. 1 month after discovering my husband's infidelity, I was still lost in confusion. Until now, I hadn't confronted my husband about the fact he was cheating. Once I bring it up, it's clear that a crack would form in our relationship. If I was alone, I would have confronted him with the evidence of his affair and divorced him right away. The only reason I didn't divorce him was for our son, Dominic. I couldn't bring myself to take his father away from him at the tender age of 8. Afterwards, my husband started going out frequently, taking advantage of me being busy with work in my room. However, this was also an excellent opportunity. While he was out, I decided to gather evidence of his infidelity. What I found in his room were several unfamiliar receipts. Apparently, he had been buying women's designer items. But there was nothing like that in his room. And of course, I hadn't received anything. There was only one conclusion I could reach. "Adam, you've been lavishing Delphine with designer items." But where did he get the money for that? He's jobless now and living off the allowance I give him every month. There's likely no savings left. Concerned, I decided to follow him. During that time, I would call my brother over to watch over Dominic. Of course, my brother didn't know about my husband's affair. I lied to my brother. "Bro, sorry for calling you out of the blue." "Nah, it's fine. But what's up? Suddenly asking me to look after Dominic?" "Actually, I really want to go shopping alone." "Shopping? You've never been much of a materialist. Don't you usually shop online?" "Well, that's true. But today, I want to buy something that's only available in the store. So, can you please look after Dominic?" "Well, alright. But don't be too late, okay? Dominic gets lonely." "Yeah, thank you." Thus, with my brother's cooperation, I successfully managed to tail my husband. Right now, he's walking arm in arm with my best friend, Delphine. I knew it was happening, but seeing it with my own eyes was a shock. The two of them cheerfully entering a high-end designer store. And then, I saw something outrageous. No way! Is that my credit card? Indeed, the card my husband used to pay the bill was my secondary credit card. I always keep my main card in my wallet, but the secondary one was left in a drawer. He took it without my knowledge and used it to fund his gifts. Over the past few months, I've been buying new work tools like monitors and keyboards and even new furniture, so the amount on the credit card has skyrocketed. Both cards are linked to the same bank account, and because I've been busy recently, I haven't checked the details carefully. This came back to bite me. I can't believe it. Not only was he cheating on me, but he was also freely using my money. Any love I had for my husband had completely cooled off. Of course, I was at fault for not noticing, but I still couldn't forgive him. I took clear pictures of the two of them in the act and returned home. For the next few days, I was engrossed in thinking about how to get back at my husband. I checked his usual use computer multiple times when he wasn't around. Since he syncs his smartphone and computer, I can easily check his and Delphine's exchanges on the computer. Soon, I found out that the two of them were going on a trip during the upcoming long weekend. A 4-day, 3-night trip to Okinawa. Yep, this is my only chance. I decided to execute my revenge plan to coincide with my husband's affair trip. But there was one problem. That was the presence of my son. It would be difficult to carry out this plan without my son finding out about his father's infidelity. I decided to rely on my brother's help again. Hey, bro, sorry to ask again, but could you look after Dominic for me during the upcoming long weekend?
You mean for the entire 4 days?
Yeah, I have something I need to do. Something to do. Huh, he says with a meaningful tone. Just as I was feeling uneasy about my brother's attitude, he firmly said this. Flora, stop trying to handle everything on your own. Bro, Adam's cheating on you, isn't he? What? How did you know? I heard it from Dominic. Huh? Dominic? Even though he was still a child, my son had noticed his father's infidelity. I don't know if he understood the concept of infidelity, but he knew that his father was becoming close with someone who wasn't his mother, and that this was causing his mother pain. It seemed that Dominic, in his own childlike way, had noticed this. But I thought I was hiding it well from Dominic. How? It means Adam has hurt you so much that even Dominic could see it. Are you still planning to be with a man like that? But if I divorce Adam, Dominic will be upset. As soon as I muttered this, my son, who was supposed to be in the next room, appeared. It's okay, Mom. I'm on your side. Dominic, are you sure? I don't need someone who makes Mom sad. As long as I have Mom, I'm okay. Thank you, Dominic. And thank you too, bro. And so, thanks to my son and brother, I was able to make up my mind to get revenge on my husband without any hesitation. We started moving to a new place on the day my husband was leaving for his affair trip. My brother helped us, and we secretly packed while my husband was away. Then, on the night before the long weekend, I decided to give my husband one last chance. I asked him, who was excited about his trip starting tomorrow, straight to the point. Adam, what's with the luggage? Why are you preparing a suitcase? Oh, this? Actually, I'm going on a trip with a friend from tomorrow. A trip? Did you mention anything about that? It's a sudden decision. Who cares? I'm going with the budget of the monthly allowance I get. Wanting to avoid further questions, my husband was emitting a don't talk to me anymore aura. But I couldn't care less about his situation. I questioned my husband in a voice lower than I've ever used before. Hey, is it really with a friend? My husband was visibly shaken, his shoulders twitching. Still, he desperately lied. Of course! You've been nagging me! I see. That's nice. A trip with a friend. Have fun. I was gonna have fun even if you didn't tell me to. Well, just don't get too carried away, okay? Leaving those words, I exited my husband's room. Honestly, if he had confessed the truth here, I was considering just asking for alimony and child support and settling things amicably. Even though he cheated on me, he was someone I once loved. When my novel didn't sell, it was because of him that I could keep going. I didn't want to hate him or resent him from the bottom of my heart. However, I can't afford to be so composed after what he's done. For the sake of my son and for my future, I have to put an end to my relationship with that man. There's no need to hold back any longer for a man who keeps lying. The next early morning, my husband had already left for his trip. I opened the drawer and confirmed that he had taken my credit card as usual. I immediately contacted the credit card company, reported the loss of the card, and requested a stop to its use. My son woke up and I greeted him. Good morning, he responded with a wide smile. Mom, it's today, right? Huh? The move! We're going to our new home today, right? Seeing my son's sparkling eyes, the last bit of anxiety I had disappeared. Oh, Dominic. All right, I've stopped the credit card. Let's move to our new home. Yeah, that's right! I'm excited for our new home! With my brother's help, our move went smoothly. My son and I moved our things to the new house, and my husband's things were sent off to a certain place. The next day, while relaxing at the new house with my son and brother, I received a call from my husband. Hello? Is that you, Flora? Do you need something? Well, actually, I've ended up spending more than I thought. Could you transfer me just a little bit? He probably couldn't use the card because I'd suspended it and was having trouble paying for things on his trip. He was asking for money indirectly without mentioning the card, which was disgusting. You said you were going to stay within your allowance, right? Sorry, but I can't afford to lend you anything. Don't say that. I can't enjoy the trip alone if you do that. Alone? Don't you mean for two? At that question, my husband let out a dumbfounded, huh? You wanted to show Delphine the sights on your trip, right? But too bad. The card you took is no longer usable, so give it up.
Whoa, what are you talking about, Flora? Who's Delphine? What about the card?
It's useless to feign ignorance. Actually, you're too flustered.
It's because you're saying things I don't understand. I don't know anything about the card.
That's enough. It's already out that you cheated on me with my best friend Delphine.
Huh?
Did you actually think it wasn't exposed? Are you stupid? It's so obvious.
No, this isn't what it looks like. It's not cheating.
I was extremely angry at my husband, who was still trying to make excuses. Not caring that my brother and son were around, I let out all the anger I'd been holding in. Don't make excuses! You had a family, but you had an affair with another woman, and you even used someone else's card. Do you realize how low you've sunk?
Yeah, Flora, let's calm down.
Calm down? How am I supposed to stay calm when dealing with the person I hate most in the world? Let me tell you, I have no intention of forgiving or helping you. I hope you and that woman you cheated with fall straight to hell. Don't you dare show your face in front of me and Dominic ever again. I unilaterally hung up on my husband. Then I got a call from Delphine, the woman he cheated with. What the heck, Flora? What have you done? Ah, Delphine. Long time no see. How's the trip with your best friend's husband? Shut up! Explain yourself first! What are you talking about? Don't play dumb! You sent Adam's stuff to my house, didn't you? Indeed. During the move, I had sent my husband's belongings to Delphine's house, the woman he had an affair with. Since Delphine was married, her husband was naturally at home. That's why I purposely sent all of Adam's belongings to her husband. I included a long letter explaining the situation, and yelled at her over the phone, almost cracking the speaker. Are you kidding me? What have you done? My husband found out, and he's furious. Isn't that natural? You're having an affair even though you're married. To think my best friend would do such a dirty thing. You're the worst. I am so disappointed. Excuse me? I think that's my line. My best friend was cheating with my husband. You think I would forgive that? Who was the one who did the disrespectful thing first, even though we were best friends? I wasn't serious. It was just a fling. There's no way I would settle for a jobless loser like him. Whether you were serious or not is none of my business. I'm getting a divorce soon too. Either way, the fact that you had an affair is true. I will never forgive you. I'll demand the maximum amount of compensation, so be prepared. Compensation? What? I didn't hear anything about that. Isn't it natural? You did something worthy of it. Wait, I'm a housewife. I can't pay compensation. I don't care. You can figure it out yourself. Or maybe beg your husband, although I guess that's unlikely. Wait a minute, Flora! Hey, wait! Goodbye. I hung up the phone without letting her speak and blocked her contact. After that, I finalized the divorce through a lawyer and demanded compensation from my ex-husband and Delphine. I demanded child support plus the amount he spent on the card without permission. Delphine, burdened with debt from paying the compensation, was served divorce papers by her husband and was apparently kicked out of their house. He tried to rely on his family home, but the circumstances were what they were. After being swiftly turned away, he's apparently now living in and working the night shift. He tried to rely on her, but she flipped out, blaming him for ending up getting divorced. She quickly cut off ties with him, and their relationship naturally fizzled out. As for my ex-husband, I hear he's now juggling several part-time jobs and just scraping by day to day. For someone who's been unemployed for a long time, finding a decent job won't be easy. Of course, if he ever falls behind on the compensation or child support payments, I'm determined to collect it by any means necessary. As for me, my son and I are living a peaceful life in our new home. My son is growing up so fast, and every day is truly fresh and exciting. I hope to continue pouring a lot of love into him, without causing him any sadness.
Everyone wants to be healthy, but let's be real. Many of us have chronic issues we are dealing with. I am one of those people. I wish I could be in perfect health too. But if that's not an option, learning to manage my condition is the next best thing. Is it too much to ask for a partner who understands this? My name is Sabrina. I'm a 29-year-old working mom. Been married to Thomas for 3 years, and I think we have a decent relationship except for one thing.
Wake up, Sabrina! Hey!
I wake up to the sensation of being shaken. Opening my eyes, I see Thomas's face. Wait, what happened to me?
You collapsed.
Hearing that, I try to sit up and feel dizzy. Not again, I think, unfazed. I am prone to low blood pressure and can easily become anemic. Even standing for too long while cooking can trigger it. So I'm extra careful when I'm cooking, but what was I doing? I think back and see a potato on the counter. Right, I was peeling potatoes. It's nerve-wracking to think I could get dizzy while using a knife.
I heard a loud thud and found you on the floor. What were you doing?
Shouldn't the first question be, are you okay? Thomas never seems to understand even when I explain my condition. Instead of worrying about me, he looks annoyed. I'm not asking for him to freak out, but a little concern would be nice. Am I expecting too much? We married after dating at work. It wasn't a whirlwind romance, but there was definitely some passion. I wonder if this is what marriage is really like. You know, Thomas and I started dating because of my chronic condition. I collapsed at a Monday morning meeting when the boss was talking longer than usual. I felt dizzy and nauseous. That's when Thomas took care of me. Ever since we got married, he hasn't been doing that anymore, and then there's the way he just acted. If he calls it just a case of low blood sugar, I can't argue back. He hears anemia and condescendingly tells me to eat liver and get some iron. He doesn't get that anemia and low blood pressure aren't the same thing. I realized in our 3 year of marriage that explaining won't get me anywhere with him. At this point, I don't care if he's not concerned about me. What bothers me more is,
I have lost my appetite. I'm going out to eat.
but I'm cooking right now.
Like I can eat anything made by someone who faints just peeling a potato. I feel worse than you do. See ya.
Wait a sec. He left without listening to me. I was left sighing in front of the potatoes. It's always like this. He complains and leaves every time I collapse. And he doesn't come back for several hours. Today, he left just to eat out? How many hours will he be gone? Before I knew it, he didn't come back until morning. Was he really just eating out? I felt my anger growing. One day, Thomas approached me saying he had something to discuss. What is it?
I'm thinking of going on a trip to Hawaii with my parents during the upcoming long weekend.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. I was so delighted by Thomas's idea that I clapped my hands. Come to think of it, we haven't traveled since we got married. Sure, going with the in-laws means I have to be a bit careful, but we get along well enough. Beautiful blue oceans, white sandy beaches. I wonder if I can still fit into last year's swimsuit. I'm already daydreaming about a tropical getaway. My mind was already in vacation mode when Thomas suddenly said,
Hey, what are you misunderstanding here?
I tilted my head in confusion. Misunderstanding what?
We're going on that trip, just me and my parents. You're staying home.
What? Why? I raised my voice, caught off guard by Thomas's unexpected words. I can't believe I'm being left behind.
You do realize your own physical condition, right? If you stand for too long, you'll faint. We can't even enjoy browsing souvenirs. How could we enjoy a trip with you? I'm not that bad, and that's really harsh, isn't it? Too much? I'm just telling it like it is. My parents said the same thing, so you're staying. You can't be serious. It's already decided. We have even booked the hotel for 3. Leaving me at a loss for words, Thomas walked out. While preparing dinner, I was left behind again. Thomas continued to go about his preparations, happily ignoring me. Should I protest to my in-laws? But then I thought of how that might ruin the good relationship we have had so far. Then again, isn't it them who are ruining our good relationship? Even so, I couldn't master the courage. I admit I might faint if I stand for too long. By the time I feel dizzy and nauseous, it's too late. It's such an unpredictable, troublesome condition. Maybe it really is a burden for them if I go on the trip. Should I just bear with it? As I pondered, I blankly stared at the calendar on the wall just then. Uh-oh. I felt dizzy and nauseous. This can't be good, I thought, too late. As my vision faded, I hoped I wouldn't fall on something hard. And with that thought, I lost consciousness. Hey, Sabrina, wake up. I felt something hit my body and I heard Thomas's voice. As I regained consciousness, I squinted and opened my eyes. Sure enough, I was on the floor. If I moved just my eyes, I could see Thomas standing there. Thomas? Jeez, when will you get it together? How many times will you fall? Ow! What are you doing? I'm trying to wake you up because you won't be grateful. Believe it or not, Thomas was nudging me with his foot. It wasn't a full-on kick, but still, nudging someone awake with your foot is just not done. I tried to get up in surprise but felt too dizzy and nauseous to stand. I feel sick. That's when Thomas said, "Tusk, tusk." He clicked his tongue. What? Seriously? No way. I want to be angry. I want to say something, but I'm too nauseous to speak. And what does Thomas say to me? Hey, I'm heading out. Take care of the house, okay? Don't let it turn into a dump while I'm gone. Got it? Completely insensitive. What, you're leaving? I told you, I'm going to Hawaii with my parents. My flight soon. I'm out of here. Wait, at least help me get to bed. I'm feeling sick. Don't care. Stop whining over a little anemia. He's got plenty of time before his flight, right? He could at least help his collapsing wife get to bed. Ignoring my silent protest, Thomas really left. All I could do was watch him go stunned and left on the floor. Wow, that's pretty harsh. You're not mad? I am mad. That's why I'm venting. Next day, I'm venting to my colleague, Abigail. She's shocked and angry for me. Right, anyone would find this ridiculous. Somehow, recovering, I get myself up, but recalling Thomas's cold attitude, I quietly cry. It's not the first time. He's been horrible, but this is too much. Even my colleagues' comforting words don't heal my heart. What should I do? Then, that night, a phone call comes in. Drinking alone, irritated, I'm shocked to see the caller ID. It says, Michael. A call from Thomas's dad, who should be on vacation with him? Something happened to Thomas? I instantly sober up and answer, Hello? Sabrina, sorry to disturb you this late. I sense that my father-in-law sounds down. Is everything okay? Well, something's come up. What he says next leaves me even more shocked. Next day, my phone buzzes in the silence. It's Thomas. Hello? Hey, Sabrina, how's it going? Weather's great here. Life's good. Thanks for holding down the fort. I'm fuming. His enthusiasm just irritates me. On the other end of the phone, I bet Thomas is wearing a sarcastic smile. Look, I'm busy. What do you want? What's up with the sore voice? Mad about house sitting? I'll get you a souvenir to cheer you up. What do you want? I deeply sigh before responding. I told you I'm busy. I am at Eleanor's funeral. Call back later. What? There's a long pause before Thomas finally speaks. The irritation grew with each word from the clueless voice on the other end. So, I'm actually at Eleanor's funeral right now? What? Wait. Huh? That's right. I am at a funeral service. Surprising, isn't it? You're supposed to be in Hawaii with your parents, but here I am at Eleanor's funeral. Michael's even hosting the ceremony. Weird, isn't it? You're supposed to be in Hawaii with your parents. Quite strange, but it's the truth. So let's leave it at that. I hung up the phone and turned it off. The funeral went smoothly, and it was getting dark. Mom! What are you wearing? The family was eating delivered pizza when Thomas burst in, shouting. I couldn't help but react to his appearance. A shirt adorned with hibiscus flowers on a blue background. His outfit screamed, I have been to the tropics. How could you come to your own mother's funeral dressed like that? Well, I came straight from the airport. It seems Thomas had called his father when I didn't answer my phone. He must have rushed here from Hawaii, and here he was, sorely out of place at a funeral. What's going on? What's this about a funeral? I told you, Eleanor has passed away. This happened last night. I received a phone call from my supposed-to-be traveling in Hawaii father-in-law. Sabrina, sorry to call you so late. After that, my father-in-law continued. Something sudden has come up. Eleanor has passed away. I dropped the drink I was holding in my hand. The alcohol spilled onto the floor, but I couldn't move. She suddenly collapsed at home this morning. We called an ambulance, but she never regained consciousness. The cause was a heart attack. I couldn't believe it. Eleanor was so vibrant. I thought she had many more years ahead of her. Unbelievable, especially since she was supposed to be on vacation with Thomas. I can't believe it, that you would be having an affair. What? Thomas froze at my words, and the person who stepped forward wasn't me. You fool! Lying about a Hawaii trip to go off with your mistress? Dad, how did you? I couldn't help but marvel at Thomas's naivety. You seriously think you can leave a mountain of evidence at home and not get caught? Exactly. After the phone call from father-in-law, I frantically searched through Thomas's stuff. What did I find? Loads of unfamiliar credit card transactions and hotel receipts. Even on Thomas's computer, there were tons of photos with his mistress. I even discovered his booking history for this trip to Hawaii. Supposed to be going with his parents, yet the reservation says 2 guests, and then there's more. Why on earth are you posting photos with your mistress on social media? What are you thinking? Yes. He was posting travel photos all over social media. No pics of them together, but they were clearly reflected in the glass at restaurants. Idiot. Thanks for leaving evidence. I can now divorce you without a second thought, since you're the kind of person who would leave me while I'm down. Wait, divorce? This is a misunderstanding. What's misunderstood? You're obviously cheating. No, you don't get it. Thomas kept saying it's not what it looks like, but couldn't come up with anything else. Why don't you just go back to Hawaii? Your girlfriend's waiting, right? Even as I give him a cold stare, Thomas tries to cling on to me, but his reaching hand was stopped in its tracks. You fool! You disgrace our family. Wait, uncle, why are you here? I ought to be here at Eleanor's funeral. The voice scolding him was my father-in-law's own brother, Thomas's uncle. That's when Thomas noticed, not just me and my father-in-law, but he was now surrounded by relatives. Wait, this is all a mistake. What's the mistake? Leaving your sick wife to go on a fling and lying that you're with your parents? Cornered by his uncle's spirit, Thomas couldn't respond. Then my father-in-law steps in. Thomas, I am ashamed to call you my son. Consider our family ties severed, and you're fired from the family business. Turns out, Thomas worked for our family business. He couldn't hold a job anywhere else. Even at the workplace where he met me, he was fired for making too many mistakes. It was his uncle and my father-in-law who gave him a job. This is so unfair. Shut up. A guy who leaves his sick wife to have an affair has no right to talk. Pack your things and get out. But there he was, wearing a ridiculous hibiscus shirt, panicking at a funeral. It's like a comedy sketch. But don't think it ends here. I delivered the final blow. Don't bother coming home. All your stuff is already sent to your parents' place with Michael's permission. What? Why would you do that? It's simple. Remember the apartment is in my name? I don't have the taste for keeping a cheater around. You're not welcome anymore. I've also changed the locks, so your key won't work. No, this can't be happening. Thomas yelled, crumbling to the floor this time. I hired a lawyer and smoothly got a divorce from Thomas. I took plenty in alimony from Thomas and his affair partner. The mistress clearly hadn't seen the alimony claim coming. She probably had no use for Thomas now that he had lost his job. Their relationship ended just like that. Thomas had been financially supporting his mistress all along. Now jobless, he obviously couldn't make payments anymore, so he had to borrow from his father and uncle. Denied a place in his own parents' home, Thomas now lives in a rundown, dingy apartment. He's working at a new job introduced by his uncle, but it's an extremely harsh environment apparently. Sabrina, help me. I'm gonna collapse from overwork. Thomas called me to say that. Really? Well, if you collapse, maybe I'll take a trip to Hawaii. I said that to him. I laughed at a speechless Thomas and then hung up the phone. I blocked his number, so I don't know what happened after that. But he's likely not leading a happy life. Years have passed, and I've been blessed with a new relationship. He's knowledgeable about health and understands my medical condition. Thanks to that, it feels like the frequency of my brain anemia episodes has decreased. Maybe peace of mind is the best medicine, and he shyly held out a ring to me. My heart soared at the thought of a happy future.